Should I?
Well,
Yeah. How about the old?
you take the oath?
Yeah,
2 hours?
I still owe you a beer.
I think so.
This is way different than what I used
So now we have to go in the
Oh, the Boy Scouts just wondering.
I guess I'm laughing because I have working parents who could still handle things like that.
A lot of college kids tonight.
Maybe they're not here.
Yeah, I think they just cut them out.
I don't see the person that I was told was going to do it, so maybe not.
I mean,
What was oil today? Down again?
we haven't quite a while.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't know. OPEC's supposed to meet on the 27th,
It's cheap.
and the rumor mill has it that they're going to cut 1 million barrels
Go down.
between Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Venezuela, somebody else. But then somebody will cheat and we'll get mad at each other. We've been down this road before.
No. What's that? We need to look and see, I mean, you mean if we did that? Oh, yeah, yeah. So, last year, I mean, it was just torture last year. Keep hearing from the governor will make his education, you can't. He said, we'll support next year maybe. Obviously, they have to try to do what they can, but it's not the way all politics is. Give him a big black eye.
Go ahead and call to order the USD489 Board of Education meeting for Monday, November 17th. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as published.
Second?
Motion by Board Member Schwartz, second by Board Member Patterson. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, first item on the agenda is the Best of the Best Awards, as presented by the board here. For many of you who have seen what this does, is it recognizes those, both one staff member and one student in USD 49 who continually goes above and beyond their normal call of duty, whether that is in the position they serve or the role they have as students. And we have two tremendous winners again who will be recognized tonight. Just continually going above and beyond. It was a pleasure to get a read through, again, all the nominations that we had. We had probably double what we did last month when we did this. So there are a lot of people in USD489 that continue to excel. And we have two of those we want to recognize tonight. And so the first one is, of course, the staff member. This award is sponsored by Gella's LB Brewing Company. They have provided a $50 gift card that staff member can use as they see fit. And with that, I would like to bring up Gabrielle Schmidt, who made the nomination. And if you would go ahead and bring up Mrs. Smith as well and tell us just a little bit about why you nominated her and what she does to deserve the nomination.
First of all, she has laryngitis, so she can't talk. Okay, my name is Gabriella Schmidt, and I am the Special Education Records Clerk for the SPED Co-op. And most of you know, but for those of you that don't, Karen is the Administrative Assistant for Mark Hopman in Special Education. And we've worked together for about 3 years. Right? Yeah. Karen is genuinely committed to working hard for the good of the district and has the positive attitude of, let's just do what we need to do to get the job done and not sit around and complain. And for me personally, she has been a mentor, a motivator, and I also see her as a positive role model for all working women. She sets a good example of what a USD489 staff member represents, and I believe, and I know as well as many other people in the district, that she deserves to be in the category of best of the best.
So,
That's it.
I just want to thank the board. I am truly humbled, and
congratulations, and of course we'll have you just step off to the side. We're going to go ahead and bring up our next award winner, who is the Student Award, and that award is, of course, sponsored in part by Whiskey Creek, who you will have the opportunity to take your parents out to lunch or supper as you see fit, or use that however you wish. After school, you can take Mr. Rupp out there as well, since he did nominate you. But Mr. Rupp, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, this is Peyton Thorell. I'm lucky enough to have Peyton both in my class as a student and also in another hour as a peer tutor. I think probably the thing that sets him out from the other students I have, even from other peer tutors, is how little he worries about his image and how much he worries about helping the other kids in my class. Especially when I have special needs kids in my class and need extra help, Peyton's always willing to step up and help them. Doesn't care about what his image is, and especially in front of the other popular kids, but is more worried about being a great role model for the 6th and 7th graders I have in my class, helping lead by a true role model, and lives by his own morals, his own values, which he has been instilled with from his parents. It's just a pure joy for me to witness him on a day-to-day basis, helping all the other kids, and I'm just lucky to have him twice every day.
Very
Awesome.
good.
Well, congratulations, Peyton. Did you want to say anything? You're good? All right. Well, Peyton, if you would come up to the front, and along with Mrs. Smith, we'd love to shake your hands.
Congratulations and thank you. Thorell, congratulations.
Congratulations. Good job.
Congratulations.
Good job, son.
All right, again, congratulations to both of the winners, and we will be looking forward, I guess nominations open back up tomorrow. Is that right? So anybody who made a nomination can go ahead and resubmit those, and we look very, very forward to the new ones as well for next month. All right, on to the next item. We have audience participation. We do have a full house here, so we'll do it one at a time. If anybody would like to come up and make any comments in front of the board, address the board, you are free to do so at this time. This will be the first and only opportunity to do so. All right, well, full house, and we don't have a single question. All right, we'll move on to school spotlights. Dean, I'll let you handle that.
Okay, first I just want to recognize all the students and all the workers that put on Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was just an awesome performance again, as always, and you can see they're packing up, and I think they have 2 semis of equipment that usually is donated as well from some ex-alumni, and just great production. And next we have Hayes NEA is proud to introduce Patsy Thorell, who is sitting here. Her son just got honored this evening from O'Laughlin Elementary School, and she is the district's Master Teacher of the Year, so congratulations. And you can see the other teachers that were nominated. Several of them are here. Melinda Cross, Heather Musel, Patsy obviously won. Bobby Dinkle I know is here. Tasha Lang, Jenny Prine, and Dana Crawford. Also just want to congratulate, I'm not going to read all the names, but there was 46 students that were inducted into the National Honor Society. Want to congratulate all of them. And then we also have another teacher that received a big award, and this is Renee Burns, also from O'Laughlin Elementary, and for earning the Kansas Next Step Teacher of the Month for October 2014. And this comes with a $500 classroom grant that I believe she plans on using for iPad apps and using things like that. So a lot of really special things going on again. So that's the spotlight for this month.
Very good. Is Ms. Burns in the audience by chance? No? Congratulations. All right, next we'll move on to report of committees.
We have Sherry Matlock and Sue Ellen Stinger to come up and do a report on the Hayes High Food Pantry.
Thanks for giving us a little bit of time tonight. I'm Sherry Matlock and my colleague Sue Ellen Stinger. We're going to talk about the Hayes High Food Pantry. Some of you may not even know that we have one. It's fairly new. We found ourselves a couple of years ago talking about how we just have more student need, more family needs, and we got to the point where we were saying, what can we do to help out with this? We knew we had more families on free and reduced lunches. That's been a trend the last few years. As counselors, we talk to a lot of families when they enroll, and they share information with us, and so we just wanted to be able to do something. We'd heard about the Backpack for Kids program. We checked into that, and we liked a lot of things about that it did for kids. Just by giving extra nutrition to them, academics went up, attendance was better, attention span was better. So we thought, we like this. We think this is something we can do. Then we found out that high school students are not eligible for that program. So we brainstormed with administration, and we said, well, surely we can do something similar. And we've been so pleased with just the support we've gotten from our community once they found out we had started this, and Ms. Stenger will talk a little bit more about that, because that was part of it, is how are we going to fulfill a pantry on a slim budget. So we have been at this about, I guess, just 2 years. It's been very rewarding, not just from the community that have volunteered and gave us many items, either monetarily or they will make a delivery to us. but it's been very rewarding for students, that just knowing that we are helping them and their families. Students will come, and sometimes it's a backpack home for the weekend or during the week. Sometimes it's some school supplies, personal hygiene items, we keep that, and then snacks and food items that we can send home. So I'm going to let Ms. Stanger talk just a little bit about the last couple of years, the numbers, and who has helped in the community.
So just to give you a little data, in the year 2012 to 13, we served 30 families which utilized our pantry approximately 93 times. In 2013 and 14, that increased to 37 families utilizing the pantry about 80 times. And the current school year, we've served approximately 11 families 34 times. And we've been very, very fortunate to have a lot of community support. We've received donations from local service organizations, some of the churches, a bank, as well as some individual private donations. And First Call has helped us in providing some extra school supplies. Oftentimes we're asked what our needs are, and so we prepared a pamphlet that we tried to keep updated, and then also we'll just connect with the people and let them know what our needs are now. So we're going to share that pamphlet with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, we'll be happy to address those. This was a display that was utilized when a local church had a benefit for us, and we wanted to just have something to show them. So that's why we brought that along. It's been a very positive experience for us. And sometimes, since we have the pantry, we found that it might be a student in our office that's upset, and it's amazing just to be able to say after we've talked with that student, you know what, we're going to just go get you a bottle of water, we've got a snack. And you know, it's just being able to have that extra, I think, bit of caring for them. It helps, and we actually, I do strongly believe it's helped just get them back to class and there for the day. So it's amazing just the little things that happen with this program.
When you talk families, 37 families in 13, 14, is that the families themselves that you're taking care of, or just the high school student?
That would be 37 different families, so it impacts our high school student. But it's interesting that when students come in, you know, they'll say, oh, my little brother would like that, or my little sister. I mean, they are really a little bit of the caretakers, and they're looking out for their younger siblings as well. So did that answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Good job, girls. This is wonderful. I didn't even know it was in existence.
Thank you, and we do take donations.
Okay. I'll be glad to see you.
So how do you go about that? Do you just drop them off at the office at Hayes High, or where do you drop off donations?
Either, right in the counseling office is great. We have a storage area in our back room that we utilize. So.
We also take the cart and meet you in the back parking lot if you have a lot. Load it up, and you're good to go. So we try.
When
We've
Marty
even
brings his
gone.
bags of money, you'll drive the carts back to see.
Works too.
Special arrangements.
It's actually kind of neat. We've had students who have utilized the pantry that say, hey, next time you bring in the next order, we'd be happy to help you out with putting it away. So it's really been great.
Okay. Well, nice
Very
job.
good.
ladies.
Fantastic.
Keep
Thank
it
you.
up.
Are we going to be able to get that in the paper on Hayes Post?
Okay, next we have communications from other organizations. We have the Clean Energy Collective and Midwest Energy. Dean, do you want to introduce that?
Yes, Mike Malone is going to present, and I guess Mike Morley as well, both of you coming up, so I assume you are. And
Hi.
I'll just turn it over to you guys.
I'm Mike Malone, this is Mike Morley. We're happy to be working together on a project to bring community solar to the community here. And our company originated this concept of shared ownership of solar facilities back in 2009. And I'll tell you a little bit about how it works and how it would work specifically for your organization. And then happy to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, I did that wrong.
Do you guys work for Midwest Energy, or do you work for
I'm sorry.
Clean Energy?
I do. I'm Mike Morley, Communications Manager for Midwest Energy, and Mike is with Clean Energy Collective. They're based out of Boulder.
Okay.
We'll just roll it in,
Oh, sorry.
or the arrows at the bottom.
Okay. So this is a bit of what I'll talk about the advantages of a community solar garden, both physically and economically, who we are, so you feel some confidence in a partner that you might choose to engage with, how it all works, summarize, and any next steps. So what we do is we build a large solar array that takes 5 to 10 acres of ground-mounted solar panels. And the model of the business is that we design it like a power plant. It's designed for a 50-year lifetime. Each of the panels within the array are owned by individual organizations, and those can be nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, homeowners, renters, businesses. Some examples here. This is a picture of one of our arrays in Garfield County. It's built on the side of an airport. That's the reason I mentioned that, is we typically try to find land that's not productive for other things. We've done them on brownfield projects. We've done them on EPA reclamation sites. But that's the idea, a large array, and not on your roof, not on your premises, not on your school. So some of the nice things is the flexibility. When you build solar on your building, it's going to be tied to that building, tied to that meter. Community solar allows you to move on-bill credits, which is the economics of the process, from any meter to 1 meter. So if you close down a school, you change your usage patterns, you can adapt what credits go to each of your facilities during that time. If your economics change too, you can sell them to another member of the community. So they have some transferability and some liquidity to them. We were founded in 2009. We kind of began this concept up in the Roaring Fork Valley of Colorado, which is just between Aspen and Glenwood Springs. Our goal was to make it easy for people to access solar power and energy in an economical and free from encumbrance way. 75% of the rooftops in America are not suitable for solar, either because of shading or how they're constructed or the way they're aimed. So this is a great opportunity for a lot of people to participate. Right now we've got 40 of these solar projects underway with 18 different utility partners across 8 states, about 26 megawatts of capacity that's developed. We started this is a picture of one of our arrays, a little up close shot with the one in Boulder. We have built them on the top of a hangar at an old retired Air Force base in Denver. And this is some of the utilities that we work with. Here we're very happy to be working with Midwest Energy. We've worked very closely to acquire land, configure this project, make it available to ratepayers of Midwest Energy. Some other customers like you that we've had. We've had school districts, we've had counties, we have cities. So we're used to dealing with municipalities. We're used to dealing with the legal process necessary to give you the confidence in order to participate in these kind of projects. Now I'll brag a little bit. We were just named 194th in Inc.'s 500 list of fastest growing private companies. So we're doing a lot of things right. We've received notice about our growth and what we're doing. We've also received notice by the EPA for some of the projects that we've done, and we're also part of their SunShare project, which is standardizing community solar for the whole country. Well, how does it work? We're building a 1.2 megawatt power plant with Midwest to service customers in this territory. They'll be sold, and all the power from that array will be sold to Midwest Energy under a 25-year power purchase agreement. That also has the ability to be renewed after 25 years too. Any customer of Midwest Energy that has a meter can participate in the program, and you'll receive a credit on your monthly bill from Midwest Energy for reduction of the panels that you own in the array. You know, obviously, you may consume power more in the winter than in the summer, and it will also produce power more in the summer than the winter. So any of those credits will carry forward from month to month so that you can use them up. So you will receive energy under the prevailing tariff rates. This is pretty. So Midwest will bill you under the prevailing tariff rates, and for your facilities, that's between 6 and 8 cents per kilowatt hour, depending upon the rate schedule of your facility. You'll get credits from the production of your arrays at 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So that helps you to cover costs faster with less panels. And then whenever those credits will exceed your charges, that difference will be credited to the next month's bill. One of the things that we've done is we've really built a solid system to protect our partners. And one of the keystones of that is that each project is established as a separate LLC, and each project under that LLC has an operations and maintenance trust fund. The reason that we do that is that we want to make sure that the array is maintained over its lifetime. We're not going to ever ask for participants for more money to kick in. So we built this O&M trust fund that collects 7% of the total power production of the array and puts it in a trust account. The reason for a trust account is that should CEC ever go out of business or cease to exist, our law firm will name a new trustee to manage it. We can't get access to these funds and do anything with them. If an avalanche hits our array in Lake County, Colorado, and destroys it, we can't take funds from Kansas and move there to rebuild it. So it isolates it, it makes it bankruptcy proof, it makes it failure proof financially for the customers. We have a lot of technology tools that monitor and maintain the array. A remote meter is the name that we call them. We keep track of a production of the array. That way we know when things need to be cleaned or maintained. It also is a good opportunity for customers to use as a training tool or awareness for your customer. And people put these up in their lobby to say this building is 50% or 100% powered by solar. It's a good way to keep that visible in front of the community. Here's an example for the middle school and high school for each location for 1,250 panels. It would produce 682,000 kilowatt hours of power a year, which would avoid about 27 million pounds of coal, 31 million automobile miles, or 42 trees planted in carbon trade-offs. So when you look at a 25-year example so your electric bill in the first year was $71,000. The first year payback on participating in this array, the savings that you would see is about 7.17%. So it's often, we often have a discussion about what do the financials look like, looks good to me, how's it pay back, and then there's the green attributes too. There's the two-pronged effect of participating in solar. The system size we looked at was 31.25 megawatts, 381.25 kilowatts, sorry, and the panels were 1,250 panels. So the full payback of the system was about 11.75 years. That's about half of what it would cost, what the payback would be if you put it on premise. So on-premise payback is typically 17 to 21 years. So that's one of the big advantages of the community too. You don't have to worry about maintaining it over time, and you also get a much faster payback than other forms of solar and renewables. So this kind of rounds out the cost. We have a cost of gross price of $484 per watt. What we do is that we take the federal tax discount as a private company. You couldn't take advantage of that tax credit as a not-for-profit or public entity. So that reduces the price by about $145 per watt. And then we extend also a 77-cent per watt rebate for large customers like you. And so that brings it down to $2.62 a watt, or about just under $1 million to power these facilities. This goes through, a lot of customers want to see what does that look like over time. So you've got production, a power credit rating of 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So you would see a credit on your utility bill of $71,625 per year. And then cumulatively over that 25-year period, be about $2.5 million in savings and about $4.3 million in savings over a 50-year period of time. You will notice that the on-bill credit rate does escalate, and that tracks with Midwest Energy's tariff rates. So that's your hedge against any inflation. So you're basically buying power at today's rate and maintaining that over the 50-year period of time. So just in summary, what community solar allows you to do is lock in your rates for a 50-year period of time. It lets you, don't need to install anything on your premise, on your buildings, on your facilities, on your property. You don't have to maintain them. It's maintained professionally by us and our successors should something happen. Rebates, discounts have been included in the purchase price. One other big advantage is the siting for our arrays is optimal. You don't have to worry about shading. We pick a spot where we're going to get the maximum production. And we've chosen for this array to install it with tracking panels so that it'll actually track the sun through the day. So we'll get a bump of about 20% capacity and output because of that. As I said, you have the opportunity to transfer the assets. So if you decide that it's not for you in the future or your needs change because your schools have become more and more efficient, we can transfer the asset to another participant in Midwest Energy. You can move it between schools or facilities if you need to do that. So that's what we put together for your consideration. Next steps would be if it's something that you'd like to participate in. We asked a deposit, a fully refundable deposit to be made, and we can go through, that'll hold the capacity for you versus anybody taking it, and it'll allow us to go through whatever due diligence process you might need with your legal counsel and financing process you might need with the bidding process. Can I ask for any questions?
You said after 25 years we renegotiate. If they last 50 years, why aren't we on for 50 years?
Midwest Energy, when we wrote this purchase power agreement with Clean Energy Collective, 25 years is pretty much the maximum duration of any purchase power agreement on the commercial market with any generating entity. And our intent was not to hamstring the board, for 30, 40, 50 years with this unusually long contract, but rather to set it at the max at 25 years and then allow this this extension process to take place so the board 20 years from now could look at that and say, hey, we want to kick this out 5 years, 10 years. They have the option of doing so.
Your board?
Correct, Midwest Energy's
Okay.
board. Yes, sir.
And the 7% that's put in case something happens to the panels?
I'm sorry?
The 7% that goes into your fund?
That goes
in case
into
something, what happens to that at the end of the 25
that goes
years?
into the operations and maintenance trust for 25, that provides perpetual O&M and insurance for the course of the 25 years.
Okay.
Does that include purchasing new panels as well? Because over time, those are going to get less
Yes,
efficient.
it does. That's a good point. Panels do degrade over time, even though there's not moving parts, just the materials in them do degrade to the point of up to 0.5%, in rare cases up to 1% a year. The output of this array of your panels, of my panels, is 80%. So if I buy, say, 10 kilowatts of capacity, if my panels were producing less than 8 kilowatts, then panels would be added to get my production value back up above 80%.
The panels themselves have a 20-year warranty on them, and the panels themselves have a 25-year warranty on them. The inverters have 2 10-year warranties on them. So when we establish the 7% figure to fund the array, we're sure that's going to fund it, pay property taxes, pay insurance for it, all the costs of maintaining that array, cleaning it, whenever it needs to be cleaned, maintaining it. And just as Mike said, whenever there's a production decrease below that 8%, we don't usually go out and figure out which is the offending panel. We just add panels to the whole array to bring everybody's vote up.
Okay.
So are these numbers then run on that 80%?
Yeah, when you
So are these worst case scenario numbers?
I think these are accurate case scenario numbers because you'll see on the chart that as the bill credit goes up, the annual KWH production goes down. That's the degradation of the panels over the 20 years.
And this is on local
solar patterns.
Yes,
This is a-
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely, yes. It's for this particular longitude, latitude, and weather patterns. It varies greatly, you're right.
If I could clarify one point that Mike made on this slide here, if you see up here at the top, it says the power credit escalator is at 3.5%. That is by no means a cap. That's just a figure that we put in there based on EIA's 20-year historic escalation of electric rates. As everybody knows, there's some funky things happening right now in the policy world with EPA rules and carbon emissions. 3.5% might be a conservative estimate going forward in the future, depending on how those rules play out. By no means is this capped at 3.5%. Our rate escalator is tied to our residential rate. If our residential rate goes up 3%, and it resets on an annual basis, the value of the credits goes up 3%. If it goes up 6%, credits would increase 6%. So that's just a placeholder figure, and it's just for illustrative purposes.
They stay bridged no matter what.
I'm sorry?
Whatever the residential rate, whatever it migrates up. Now, what if it goes down?
Lockstep.
Then the values of the credits would happen as well
Okay,
for that year until it resets again.
sure. So just to simplify, it's $1 million down.
It's $1 million for the total.
Right.
1990 years.
And then almost 12 years break even on the ROI.
Right.
And then about 1.5 million over the next 13 and some change.
One of the things that we like to do is when we work with a large potential off-takers, that the discounted rate that we offered you for a volume approach, we would like to extend to your employees too, as a way to increase the community participation. So if they would like to participate, we'd extend them the same per watt cost structure.
What's your longest system in place right now?
2009, we put the first system into the Roaring Fork Valley. So and we've got a real good track record of hitting the numbers that we say as far as the production numbers. So we fine-tuned that over the last couple of years and feel real good about how they're engineered versus what we're actually producing, and the weather patterns. You see ups and downs, but these weather patterns tend to, on the average, to be very accurate.
When are you wanting to break ground?
It's already broken ground.
It
We're
is
driving
broken?
piles. We'll be, our goal is to have this operational end of the year, but
Okay.
it may leak over into the first part of January, but right now that's our goal.
Our plan is to do acceptance testing hopefully in the second week of January, but as Mike said, the project's proceeding, the site's all graded down, the pilings have gone in, the inverter pad is poured, the arrays, the panels, 3,960 of them have been delivered to the site. The next step is for the racking material to arrive from New Mexico. That gets bolted on. All the motors for the tilt system are assembled, and the last step is for the panels themselves to be screwed into place. They plug into one another. It's basically plug and play at that point, and then to do the phasing and the acceptance testing.
When you said you could sell back, is that sell back to Midwest Energy, or is that going out and finding somebody to sell to?
It's just like when you buy a house, we'll help you find another purchaser for it.
So you can negotiate your own price?
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, you can. It's a math kind of function
Right.
to what it's worth, so, but yes, you can.
You're putting in 4,000 panels at this site?
3,960, correct. And currently, there's about 75, 80 different Midwest Energy members from, 27 counties that have purchased in the area thus far. And they represent a very interesting mix of residential and different commercial businesses. So there's farm enterprises, there's oil producers, there's municipalities that have bought in to the array, so it's a pretty wide cross-section.
And that's pretty typical of our projects, that you have a large community swath. It's people buying one panel, it's people buying, 1,250. It's all through that range.
Which other municipalities?
City of Grinnell has purchased in, and it's a small town. They've purchased to the tune, I think, of 50 to do offsets for their city hall and their police offices. Ironically, tonight, the Grinnell School Board is also taking a presentation from Clean Energy Collective, so Mike's counterparts over there tonight giving them a similar.
We split up to get both.
Who got the short straw? You?
I don't really know how to answer that.
One last question from me. If we get this down, let's say we move forward, we change out the lighting in the buildings, move to LED, really pull down the electric rate, or the amount we're using, the consumption, does this transfer over to help offset the gas portion as well? Is it all one bill, or how does that work?
In theory, it could, because what you're doing is you would be applying these 1,250 panels to however many buildings you'd like. If you'd like to do 400, 400, 400, you could do that. If you want to put them all towards your largest facility, probably Hayes High School, you could do that as well. If you were to make significant efficiency improvements, in theory, yes. If there were a surplus of credits, one of two things could happen. You could either apply it to your bottom line bill, because again, Midwest Energy bills, electric and gas, if you take both services, come on one bill, and this is simply a bottom line bill credit. If you're an electric only customer, those would roll forward until such a month as where you had a lot of consumption, typically July and August with the AC, and then those credits would bleed off at that time.
What kind of timeline do you guys have?
So as we said, we'll be producing power in January. So from a decision-making timeline standpoint, it's better to be early rather than late, because we often sell out within the first quarter of energizing a project. We sold out our Holy Cross, the third array we did up in the Norfolk Valley, which was 1.7 megawatts. We did that before it was finished being constructed. So it's the risk there is that somebody else takes your capacity. I mean, it's a limited amount of panels to be won. So.
Are there any other school districts in Kansas that are doing anything like this? Because you had mentioned Colorado.
Not on the community side. There's only 2 arrays in Kansas right now that could be considered utility scale. Both of them are owned by the federal government. The first and the oldest is at Fort Riley. It's about half the size of this. The second is at the BA facility in Topeka, and it's about 3/4 the size of this. West Star Energy in Topeka does have a program where they provide a bit of a grant for schools and nonprofits to put up an on-site array, but it's substantially smaller. You're probably looking at 100 panels or less, so it's more of an experimental type project. So this being the first and largest largest array and the first community array in Kansas, this would be the first district, unless Grinnell does.
Are they voting tonight?
They started an hour after you.
Oh. We got time.
Grinnell did take a presentation back in September, and they requested a second follow-up tonight. So.
What is the total panel for the 1.2 megawatt? You have 3,960 right now. Ours would be a 1250 system. What is your total allotment
For the whole?
for the 1.2?
It's
3,960.
Oh, okay.
And one
I
quick
thought
thing
you meant
is-
you already have 3,960 of them sold. That's the total.
That's the total of it.
Okay.
And if you do the math, you'll notice that 305 watt panels divided by, or multiplied by 3,960 does not equal 1.2. The difference is DC versus AC. The solar folks love to talk in DC, so it's 1.2 megawatts DC. The rest of the world functions on AC. It's 1 megawatt AC, so that's...
1.2 sounds bigger to me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share the information. If you have any further questions, please contact Amy or myself. Amy's number is at the back of your presentation. We would love to have you participate. We'd love to be part of your decision-making process going forward, and hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Up next, we've got the report of the superintendent. Dean, do you want to take over?
Yes, I have a few things. I just wanted to mention state budget. You've
all seen the revenue estimates came in lower. Really, when the legislators go back to work in January, the figures look like they're going to have to, over the next year and a half, look at cuts or revenue increases, something to make up over a $700 million deficit with that. So that's the big news right now, is how that's going to happen. We don't know. We have the court case still pending, and they were supposed to decide or let us know this week or sometime very soon, and they did back that up 30 to 45 days. So we won't know anything more with that till a little bit later, pushed it off again. So the next thing I just wanted to, our talking tours, I think are going very well. We have 2 this week, one at the middle school and one at Washington. Both of those start at 3:30. I believe they're both in the library, if I'm not mistaken, in both buildings. And then we've been talking about KASB conference coming up December 5th through the 7th. Josh, you were contemplating any, okay. If we do want to send somebody, we need to get some things rolling, or it'll be tough to get a place to stay, close there, but, okay. So let us know ASAP, and we will make arrangements however we can. That is what I have for my report.
Dean, a question on the budget. If they do across-the-board cuts, and let's just say they do percentage-wise, do we have that total? How much that would affect us? Let's say if they said cut 3%, 4%?
I haven't figured any percentage. No. It'd be easy to tell, but top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
They won't be able to, see, the thing that worries me is they won't be able to, unless the governor does allotments, meaning makes cuts himself right now, starts now, until they come back in January, and then, our budget year, there's not gonna be a lot left. So I don't know what'll happen. You keep reading more and more, the governor will not cut education, those things, but we just kind of in limbo right now, so we'll see.
When do we know by?
What's that?
When do we start knowing by?
Well, who knows? They go back in January, and we'll see what route they want to take to balance the budget, so.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to financial reports, and with that, I'll turn it over to Tracy.
The October financials are attached. One thing I wanted to point out was exception number 20 at the central office. We are truly over on that line. Once I dug into it, it's due to overtime, classified overtime at the central office. I think that will even out over the holidays. We don't typically have much overtime, but I will definitely keep a close eye on it. So that is in red, since it really is over budget. And then on the capital outlay, I wanted to point out that the last line, our roofs, the second column over, the 3,600 is what was spent when this report was generated. We have committed to the roofs at Rockwell and West Side, so that column really should read a little over 72,000 of the 420,000 we had allotted to spend. And I do not anticipate that we will be spending any more on roofs out of that line unless something would occur that is unexpected. And then above that, as we talk through the evening here, just wanted to point out for transportation, we did have the 304,000 budgeted each year for this year and the next 5. And then above that, under the schools, we have 133,500 budgeted for IT equipment. And then as we talk about the gym floors, that would fall under our unscheduled, since we did not anticipate spending that. We do have about 135,000 left in that line that would go towards, if you guys do approve that. We also should stay well under the 460,000 in scheduled. That was a number that we carried over from last year, but the request that we've approved this year shouldn't even be close to that, so we will have quite a bit left over in that line also. Are there any questions on any for the financials this month?
Just on the capital outlay, the buses we had year 7 of 7, we no longer have any leases, right, on buses at all?
This
Paid
is the
cash?
last, correct, this is the last year on that. Mhm. Right.
Any questions? Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Be one motion to approve all items listed, which would include the board meeting minutes from November 10th, 2014, board meeting minutes from October 27th, 2014, the financial reports, which includes the clerk's report, investment report, and petty cash report, personnel transactions, Clayton Holdings payment in the amount of $176,299.16, the approval of bills in the amount of $2,726,776.18. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Patterson. Is there a second? Second by Board Member Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. On to new business, item A, Middle School League. Dean, do you want to introduce that?
Yes, Bruce Rupp is here to discuss what, some of the information that we had asked him to find at the last, or at the work session, and talk a little bit more about the Middle School League. So,
After meeting with you, I went back and got some more numbers, talked to Russ and Melissa at the Transportation Department, and the new numbers on the screen represent our cost for transportation this year versus a projected cost for next year. The increase, due to obviously the miles that will be traveling, the increase is $1,623.37. The other savings I listed with you last Monday at the work session, by taking our basketball coaches from the current Class 4 pay down to the Class 2 pay because of the shorter seasons, would save us the $8,420. If I combine those with the savings by no longer having tennis salaries, it would be $12,032. Figure back in adding 4 soccer coaches, which would be $7,224. And obviously then the changing from soccer to tennis, the reduction, with all the mileage versus the new salaries, the total savings would be $3,184.63. I also have with me a check tonight because we had a parent that was at the work session that sensed your concern over the money issue. And I do have an anonymous parent donation that would like to buy the first set of soccer uniforms for $2,500.
Wow. That's super.
and I think, I'm sorry, Bruce, but it was asked what it would cost if we wanted to keep tennis, and that's right underneath there.
The
and
cost of
that's the
keeping tennis, the transportation is a big factor because we have to go to so many out-of-town meets, along with being bused to transportation or to practice, and keeping the salaries and keeping the $1,580 that they regularly have on their annual budget would be $10,574 to keep tennis.
And your recommendation is to change to the new league and drop tennis?
My recommendation, the biggest reason I want to make clear is that the existing arrangement we have is dissolving. My first has already joined the Pioneer League. This week, Wednesday, Salina is before Keisha, asking them to assign them to the same league, the Pioneer League. And so that'll happen at the latest would be January. And so that would leave us only with us and Great Bend has already joined this new league.
Okay.
And the reason I'm sacrificing tennis is because the new league, nobody participates in tennis except Great Bend. And for us to maintain any type of schedule would be travel east all the time.
Okay.
How many students are you looking at potentially that could participate in soccer?
I'm going to recommend keeping 22 boys and 22 girls.
Okay.
It'll be 7th and 8th, 2 teams, 1 7th and 8th boys and 1 7th and 8th girls. both in the spring. And the thing I like about it being in the spring is our track team is always so overcrowded that a lot of the kids get very few opportunities to participate in meets because you can only usually take your top 3 throwers, top 3 jumpers in each event. We usually have about 150 kids out for track, and so hopefully this will pull some of the overcrowding from them.
22 boys in 7th and 8th grade is a combined
Yes.
between the two.
There's always an A game and a B game, or varsity and a JV, at both boys and girls.
So there will be full B
Yes.
participation still?
Yeah, the order is, in soccer, the order is girls varsity at the same time as boys JV, and then girls JV while it's boys varsity on two fields adjacent.
Okay.
And Roger Bixman has already agreed to allow us to use those fields here.
Will there be any sports that won't have, will basketball still have a B level
Yes.
participation?
Yep.
So most business as we typically know it then as far as
Yes.
participation?
Yeah.
You're good with this, Craig?
Yeah, I wasn't able to be there on Monday, but as Bruce said, we just didn't have any options. I want to thank Bruce for going out and going to these new leagues, because if we wouldn't have followed going into the new leagues, we would have lost our opportunities for so many of our kids to participate. And that was one of the key items when we condensed the 2 middle schools into one, was to be able to not cut the opportunities for kids to be involved. And this looks like the best long-term solution to having these opportunities.
Is the new league going to be called WAC?
Excuse me?
Is it going to be called WAC then?
Yes, it would be called the MS WAC, which would be the Middle School Western Athletic Conference.
And you said this would free up a lot of gym time too, correct?
Yeah, the good thing about it
Basketball
is the change takes us back what we used to be in. We used to have split seasons. So girls' basketball will take place from mid-October until mid-December, and boys will take place from Christmas break to the end of February.
This is one of the things that we're really struggling with. When you talk about facilities, right now we have girls and boys basketball, A and B, going at the same time. And so somebody has to go early in the mornings, which isn't the best, and we can't go late in the evenings. So this is a solution to what our parents are putting up with right now of getting up at 5:30 to get their sons to the gym for practice. So it's going to help a lot of different things.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce spent a lot of time traveling to get this done, and I appreciate his work.
Questions, anybody?
No? Thank you for all your work, Bruce.
I make a motion to take Bruce Rupp's recommendation and administration's recommendation to join the MS WAC League.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Patterson, second by Board Member Waddell to take Mr. Rupp's recommendation to join the MS WAC League beginning, might be this fall, correct?
Correct.
Any discussion?
I have just a couple questions. The salaries that you've listed in the savings, Dean, or that they've listed, those are all subject to negotiations, correct?
They're based on what they are currently.
Right, but to change salaries on supplemental salaries, we have to negotiate those with the teachers union, correct?
Correct, and I think they've checked that with the union, and I think they have agreed that they would, that was one of the first things that we had Bruce check to make sure that was going to be allowed to happen.
So we think we have an agreement from them that they will agree to change the salaries?
For the basketball down to the level, 4 to 2, I think, and then, yeah.
And then, I don't know if I followed this right, but on the football schedule, and I looked at the games, it looked like we had 11 last year. Did I count that wrong?
Unless there are some separate B-onlys, possibly.
I guess the question would be, how many games do we have last year?
You're allowed to play 7 varsity games. And we had some teams that didn't have enough for an A team, were only fifth quarter, so we picked up some extra B games because our numbers are so high, we had 90 to 80 kids in football, so we got some extra games to alleviate playing time for those kids.
So, like this current school year, the season we just finished, there would have been 7, you think?
7 varsity games, there's probably some extra B games.
And then next year we'll have how many?
We're allowed 7. And I can, if I need to, I can look for more B games if we don't have enough. And all the grade always stems from numbers. If we have, like this year, we had 80 kids out. Great Bend had 80 7th grade only out. You know, so the larger schools, and sometimes you never know what your numbers will be year to year. I know our numbers next year in 8th grade will be very high again because we had high numbers in 7th grade. I don't know how many 6th graders will play that are going to be 7th graders, but if our numbers are always high enough to have a full A and a full B game. Sometimes Salina, you know, they came to town this year, they only had 23. When we played Scott City, they only had enough for an A game, so they didn't have a B at either level. So I try to pick up extra B games with some of the smaller towns. We'll play their A against our B just to get more playing time for some of our B kids.
And I guess the only reason I ask is because you only have 3 games next year listed. And I assume that's for travel,
Yeah,
obviously.
and the reason that also changes, Greg, is this year, if our 7th grade was at home, our 8th grade was automatically on the road. Next, the new league, both grade levels will play at the same site.
And then that was all I was curious is, you know, that's, if there's 7 games, are we going to then rotate the following year? Will be 4 games on the
Correct.
road, 3 at home?
Correct.
Now, do we anticipate additional on-the-road games for those B games?
It depends who's available and where they want to play. You know, this year when we made our cuts, when Dean had me made cuts, because Saline Lakewood wanted extra games so bad, they actually paid our game workers and our referees to come here and play us because they were so short on games. And they played us twice, and they paid for the second one completely. So.
Then on soccer, how many games will we have?
You're allowed 7. Again, you're allowed 7. Our regular season games will be 7. Then the top 4 teams will go into the playoffs, and you're allowed 2 more playoff games.
And you, it appears you calculated, assuming that we'd make that.
I could be optimistic.
They win everything else.
So then, next year though, that on that, or the year after, we'd be 3 on the road then instead of the
Correct.
4?
Yes. The interesting is that what they do, they take your football schedule, whichever ones are home and away are just opposite in soccer. So in each year, those just flip. So it's,
There's no way to shake it. We got a little bit additional travel time here.
Sure.
I mean, our distance points are obviously a little farther away than Salina and McPherson. Our start times, are they total time out of school and late nights coming home? Mr. Pallister, Mr. Rupp, I mean, do you foresee a problem with middle
not
school
really.
grades?
We're only going to go to one liberal. What we're trying to do is we're only going to go to one of the towns. Like in football, we'll never go to Liberal, Garden, Dodge, both those schools each year. We'll only go to one Liberal school, we'll only go to one Dodge school, and one to Garden school. One thing we're doing in volleyball, or even in basketball, instead of having us play Liberal on a Thursday night in basketball, one year we will host both Liberal schools, and Great Bend will come to Hayes. We'll play both Liberal schools on one Saturday. The following year, we'll move that to Liberal. We'll play both Liberal schools on a Saturday. The third year, it'll come back to Great Bend. Both Liberal schools will meet us there. We'll play both Liberal schools on a Saturday. So instead of us ever going to Liberal in basketball, that won't happen. And they'll never come this far in basketball. We're doing the same thing in volleyball. Volleyball, everything is going to be quads to alleviate the travel. So,
But you have, like for soccer next year, we have Liberal, Garden, Dodge, and Great Bend. So we'll have all 4 of them.
correct. But never both schools is what I'm saying. We'll never go to 2 Liberal schools for football. We'll only go to those towns one time per season. In basketball, we don't go. In basketball, if we go, we'll play both schools on one Saturday, so there won't be any loss of instruction time or worry about getting back at what time. And we'll try to be as creative with that as we can because of instructional time and also late nights. So.
2,000 miles on the soccer team.
Any questions?
Anybody got any other questions?
Just that I wish the parents that bought the soccer uniforms would stay unanimous.
I can ask them. They're pretty private people, but I can ask them.
Well, you can tell them thank you for me.
Yes. Tell them thank you. All right, seeing no other questions or discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Rupp.
Thanks for all your work, Bruce. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item B, the gym floor repairs.
Rusty, you want to come up and walk us through that?
Earlier, I sent information out to you addressing the gym floors both at high school and at the middle school, and the fact that we've got layers coming apart between finishes, and that what I'm finding, the only way that we're going to be able to correct it is to sand them floors back down to wood and start with the finish over again. Sent you the proposals on that. My recommendation is that we go ahead and do that. I've tried to split it out with the building administrators so that we're working with them so that we don't have all the gyms down during the summer. Looking at doing Gym B at Christmas time, middle school gym at spring break, and then we'll do Gym A sometime this summer. You should have received a letter from me that I received from Hilliard that talked about the delamination and where it was taking place. And I was under the impression originally that it was between the acrylic layers and the oil layers, but it's actually between the two different oil finishes is where the separation is what they found. So, any questions?
The people that are doing the repairs now, have they been in business for a long time?
Yes, I have. I've used them several times.
And they're local?
Yes.
And there's some sort of warranty with this group compared to?
Yes, there would be. Yeah.
So we don't end up in the same spot?
No, we shouldn't end up in the same spot. My intent is, once we have this down, that we'll take over doing the maintenance coats. We've been hiring the maintenance coats out, and they've been through 3 different vendors.
Okay.
And I intend on
doing it yourself,
staying with the same product. It's a product that I've used for several years and had good luck with, and that's what they'll be putting down. So.
Okay.
I know maybe we did talk about this, I don't remember. Did we have specs put together for what needs to be done? I know that we have a local, we don't have to send it out, but the concern I have in light of Marty's comments, if we don't and they do it and we do have problems, do we have any recourse?
I have the proposals, and yeah, there is some recourse in there. I can get those for you if you'd like.
I think they're attached,
Yeah.
but I just...
And like I said, I have the utmost faith in the vendor. I've used them for, I started using them in the 80s when I was working at Oakley, and have used them both there, Scott, and so I'm very familiar with them, and I've never had any problems.
Mm-hmm. I've used them in other districts as well, and they are top-notch. And any issues that, if we did have, they were there taking care of whatever they needed to. Take a lot of pride in their work.
And after they sand it this time, how many more sandings are left on those floors?
The middle school has less than the high school simply for the fact that the middle school floor wasn't as thick starting out. It's all due to the depth, or the thickness of the floor and how deep the nails are, and once you reach those. The middle school, I think if you read in there, originally they figured 5 sandings, and I think we're into 2 of those, so they're estimating that we have 2 to 3 sandings left on it. The high school was a thicker floor. Even though it's had more sandings, it's actually got more sandings left. I think it was 4 to 5 sandings left on it. It's in your information if you'd like to look.
Do you reseal those floors every year?
Yes, we do.
Anybody have any questions for Rusty? Any other questions?
Did we already talk about budget? Where it is in the budget?
That's not in there.
Yeah, it would fall under the unscheduled. We have $165,000 allotted for unanticipated expenses and capital outlay.
For the year?
For the year. We've spent a little over $30,000 so far, and so that would fall in that line. We also, in our scheduled expenses, have $460,000 budgeted, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere near, that we'd spend anywhere near that. So if something really unforeseen would happen, we would have extra money in the schedule too that we could allot. to there if we needed to.
In the one, you said the high school floor would be this summer,
Yeah.
and that would more than likely come out of next year's budget, the 19,300. So we would be budgeting 2 floors out of this year's budget and 1 out of next year.
And then, given that we're trying to look forward in capital outlay, can we take this cost and include it? You know, if it's every 2 years or whatever it is? How long?
For the finish, or
8 to 10.
For the,
10 to 12.
well, I guess
Yeah.
the sanding, how often are we gonna have to do the sanding?
The sanding, this type of sanding, they figure only every 10 to 12 years.
Oh, okay, okay.
the maintenance coats aren't.
The maintenance coats aren't near this
Putting
much.
wax on.
And with you taking care of it, we're good for 20?
I'd hope.
That's the answer we want to hear.
What priority would you place these in between the 3 floors?
Well, I prioritized them based off what the administration and the buildings could work with as far as our
Time.
coaches and time that we had with them.
I guess the problem though is, let's assume we can do one, but I don't know if the other one's on here or not, but we did talk about another potential big expenditure that could come up with the Roosevelt. You know, if you do one, but you can't afford to do 2 others, I know that may not work into the priority level, but if you had to pick one, which would it be?
Well, they're equally have the same problem, so I don't know that I'd want to make that choice. I guess I would have to visit with the building administrators and let them sort of prioritize.
Probably looking at either the high school or middle school.
I would,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I would
I'm
say
not wanting to
the-
get between that.
I mean, my opinion would be the high school gym, the main gym, just because that's I say showcase. That's where more people are gonna be in and more use and those things. Not that the other ones don't get used all the time. But if I was gonna, that's the one I would say.
Can it be done to where you could do that one over Christmas?
Gym A, I've had that discussion with the administration there, and they did not want to do Gym A over the Christmas break.
And the high school one will be out of next year's budget anyway, correct, Dean?
Gym
Yes,
A.
it could.
GMA would be out of the next year's budget.
Whichever one we do in the summer, in that one.
So do we need to vote on it tonight, or can we vote on it when it gets closer and vote on the other 2?
Well, if you're doing it on piecemeal, I don't know you need to vote on any of them.
Nah, you probably don't.
So if they're all under 20, we don't need to vote anything.
That would be up to you guys if you wanted to vote or not, but no, you wouldn't have to.
I don't need to vote on this.
I don't want to time myself with timing and all that.
Well, I would just encourage you to take a look at, I mean,
Yeah.
if
Right, if we
The
do run
priority
into
from-
other things, we
it's not
will.
there.
Thanks, Rusty.
Thanks, Rusty. Okay, up next, we have transportation needs. Russ, I guess you're back up on the hot seat.
As we discussed last week's meeting, brought together a 5-year plan for car Suburbans and buses, and was bringing to the board, this being the first year of that 5-year cycle, we was looking at getting 2 cars and 2 Suburbans, and 1 route bus and 1 wheelchair bus, for a total of $289,860. Our budget is $304,000, so it'd be $14,140 under budget.
And you did seek local bids after last week, and they were higher.
Correct, yes, quite a bit higher.
That was on the cars and Suburbans.
Cars and Suburbans, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, we had debated a little bit at the work session about air conditioning. I think we need to do it, but I just want to make sure everybody's on board with what Russ is going to send out to the state bid, go through the process, so.
I was okay with the air conditioner on the sped bus, but I'm probably not okay with the air conditioner on the route bus, in my opinion. You know, I know that there's some hot days at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year, but overall through the school year, it's pretty cool. And not only is it $8,000 up front, it's the maintenance over the next 20 years for air conditioning systems. since I do that a little bit, trucks. You know, that's the gift that keeps on giving, air conditioning systems. And I really put some numbers to it. I think that air conditioning system in one bus is going to be closer to costing you $25,000 by the end of the life of that bus. In my opinion, and I could be wrong.
Well, and I think, even, when we talked at the work session, you pointed out that even when it is hot, a lot of times we don't run them anyway. We take advantage of shade.
Do what we can, yes.
So-
Instead of sitting there and let them idle for 30 minutes, yeah, we'll find some shade trees.
So that was my only concern, was the air conditioner on the one route bus. The rest of it looks fine to me.
Russ, do you, on this, will you bring what your bid comes back at? Are you asking this to be approved, what you have now?
This
I mean,
should pretty
can we
well be
make
what the bid would be, yes.
Can we make the change then, if that's what they choose on the air conditioning on the route bus?
Could be there for the route bus, yeah. I don't know exactly, but it'd be at least $7,500 probably for sure.
Do our other route buses have air conditioning?
About half of them have air conditioning. Some of the newer models do. The trend is going more to the air conditioning. We got kids, like say, only part of the time of the year, some of the kids are on the bus for almost an hour. They get off of there, their faces are red and they're hot, and especially in town where we don't get a lot of circulation of, the wind going down the road like we do in some of the country routes. So,
You ever had a heat stress situation with a child, Jeff?
not yet, no. We do encourage them to bring water, water bottle or something like they do at school. If they do that, we encourage them bringing that with them, so they have something to drink.
How much driving around in town would that route bus be doing now? Because we don't bus inside 2.5, right?
I'm sorry?
The busing in town, you said there's not much airflow when you bus around in town. How much would that route bus actually be used in town?
This route bus would be more of our out-of-town route. It'd go more toward probably Shin, Leventhal in that area. So it'd be more because it drives more miles, we'd put the newer bus on the one that drives more miles.
Okay.
On this particular one, probably.
Then I think we need air conditioning. I mean, there are some hot days.
Do we do a lot of air conditioning repair on our buses right now?
Oh, I don't know what the value is, but we do work on them some. By us not going, a lot of the units are underneath the bus, and we don't do any country driving. We're mostly on highway, so we eliminate a lot of that dust, a lot of the rocks and stuff chipping up through there. So we do work on them. We have to, keep them charged up. That's probably the worst thing, is they lose their charge. So we do have an expense on them. I don't know what that dollar amount is, but yes, there is obviously an upkeep to them, yes.
So how long would a student be on the bus if they're on this route?
Well, when school gets out at 3, certain schools are out at 3 o'clock. Some of them don't get home till around 4 o'clock, so some of them are on there for up to an hour, depending on where you live and what time school gets out.
And those route buses are used to pick up kids at school before transfer?
Yes.
And these are the same kids that at recess on those same hot days are out running the entire recess? Is that?
Probably the same kids,
Just
yeah.
want to be clear, I wasn't sure.
But out running versus stuffed in a hot box.
With the windows down, driving down the highway. I'd make a motion to approve the buses without with the wheelchair bus having the air conditioner and the route bus not having the air conditioner.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Board Member Schwartz to approve it and remove the air conditioner from the route bus. A second by Board Member Patterson. Any discussion?
What, our schedule now for, remind me here, Russ, buses, you maximize resale approximately when? I mean, how long do you want to keep a new bus?
Anywhere from 10 to 15 years. After that 15th year is when you really put more value into them and what they're worth. So our plan is hopefully in that 10 to 15 years, start rotating some buses back out before we get to that 25 year when we can get $1 or $2 grand out of when they're completely worn out.
Have you noticed I understand exactly what Marty is saying here. However, I'm also looking at the 7,500, no chance of problems versus running the risk that something could possibly happen. So when you're looking at the no additional cost to maintain the AC system, do you have any buses that are 10 to 12 years old right now with air conditioners that you're seeing a big expense with them on?
I wouldn't say a huge expense. It's mainly just keeping them charged up with Freon is the main expense that we have. But like replacing the whole unit or anything like that, no.
So it's about 7,500, 8,000 for the air conditioning system?
Correct. Yes.
We're 14,000 under right now.
Yeah, $14,000 under budget right now, yes.
So no AC puts us at 22 under, keeping the AC puts us at 14. I mean, do you think it's a realistic concern that we need to worry about heat stresses?
I think they're uncomfortable at best.
Uncomfortability, I can probably, I don't know.
They're on a bus. The seats aren't comfortable anyway.
No, but, I mean, in August and early September, it's really hot. And, I mean, if it were a 5 to 10 minute drive across town, I could live with that. But to know that some of these kids are gonna be in an air-conditioned bus for 1 hour, that concerns me on a 95, 97 degree day.
These are mostly farm kids, right?
Out of town.
Can't answer that.
I mean, here's my concern with it, is that, one, I don't know that we've ever had an incident of somebody overheating on a bus. Could it happen? Possibly. But if you're telling them to bring water and your bus drivers are taking, or watching that, and they're driving down the highway, I assume you allow them to open the windows.
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to get that hot in there, and our bodies are designed that when we overheat, we sweat, and the cool air cools us off. It's pretty amazing how that works. But even if we're only saving $21,000, $22,000, we've got $100 million that we're short. And you're not going to get to any number if you start every time you have $7,000 or $8,000 saying, well, it's only $7,000 or $8,000. Next thing you know, you're 800,000 over. So, I mean, we're not going to make it all up on buses either. But I mean, at some point, you got to decide. Can you have every single thing you want?
What's backside? Resale's better with AC on a bus than
Obviously, it'll be better, yeah, than what it is without. Value, I don't know. Haven't been there to have that resale value. 'Cause every bus we get rid of is typically completely worn out, or it's went through so many repairs. We don't mess with fixing it and sell it on Purple Wave. So
even at the 10 to 15 year mark?
we haven't sold. Most of ours are in that 20, 25 year range, and hopefully get to that point.
I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying, Greg. It just, part of me wonders, do you spend the 7,500 to prevent a major catastrophe that could cost us a lot more in the long run also? I'm glad to see the bids come in under. That's definitely.
I think they're pretty much set. I mean, with the state process, I mean,
Right.
there may be a little variance, but not much.
Well, we do have a motion on the table. Is there any more discussion? Or do we want to vote on that motion? All right. Motion on the table was to go ahead and accept Russ's bid with the pulling of the AC unit on the route bus. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay, up next, we have item D, the technology update and purchasing. Mr. Drennan, do you want to approach the board?
How are you guys?
We're good.
So as we discussed at the work session, Tech Committee So we've been doing some research within the different grade levels, elementary, middle, high school. We've done a survey at the elementary and middle school level on a device that they would like to see for their classroom, for students, and for themselves. Today we're talking about classroom devices for students. So out of those surveys, we had more than 71% at the elementary and 60% at the middle school came back in favor of an iPad device. So the tech committees looked at this information. We have sat through the presentations of Microsoft and Apple over the last 2 weeks, and we think that it's something that we need to explore. We'd like to bring in, I know at the work session we had a different number, but we've brought it down. We're looking at 100 to bring into the district and disperse. And a lot of it mainly is through middle school and high school and some elementary. The reason for that is elementary has home and school purchases already in their buildings and from various other ways of getting devices that aren't district purchased. So what I've done is I've reached out to the state contract. I've worked with Apple, and the devices are the iPad Airs. They cost us at $374 a piece, and it would be $37,400.
What's the other prices on some of the other ones? Because the iPad Air is pretty new technology.
Apple discontinues, right? So they not discontinues the general public, but the education, they only sell the model previous. So you can't get the 4s or the 3s or it wasn't an option to us when I was talking to Apple.
Okay.
Apple also does a device enrollment program to where when you purchase a device, they register it to the school district, which then allows us to register it to an MDM, which allows us to manage it. Without that DEP, we can't register your iPad since it's not ours, right? It's just an ownership type, so we don't take other people's iPads, I guess. But, so that's kind of the other reason too. At the work session we discussed, we have other purposes for them in the event that the middle school and high school don't like this doesn't fit their bill, right? We have the SPED department that's currently using iPads. They have some Gen 1 iPads. They have a use for them as well. I don't know if they have a use for 100, but we also have a use for them. Elementary has obviously shown interest in the iPad by the home and school purchases. Those are made off of recommendations from the staff. So that's the other side of that. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm sure there's questions. But before I say that,
we're going to hold. I have some focused questions, though. I came up for you tonight. So,
okay.
In addition to my ones from the other night, one of the questions I have, as I talk to a couple of board members between our work session and now, and trying to focus as to what we need to do to make your guys' job easier, and not this kind of chasing your tail as you bring something in and we bring these other questions, and I think a lot of it ties to us. I don't know if any of the board agrees with me, but I think one of the questions is what is the cost of having a lab-based system, whether it be carts or whatever the situation is, district-wide versus a one-to-one system?
And that's that's what we're looking at. So the subcommittees, that's what they're geared towards. The how, what, how often, when, right? Those questions, and then quantity. Because we're not pursuing this as it's going to be a one-to-one initiative. We're going forward with digital learning, right? We're bringing better digital learning to the classroom.
Well, and we talked about bring your own device, and I still like the concept, but I think one of the things when I'm talking about it, it's really more buy your own device is what I'm looking at, not as much as bring your own. And so, one of the things we see in the surveys and in talking to one of your technology committee members, they say, well, if I have the choice between giving my kid the iPad they have at home and taking it to school and letting him tear it up there versus taking yours and letting him do the same thing, I'm going to take yours all the time. And the survey kind of indicated the same thing from another, and maybe it's the same parent, I don't know, but it's just, I can understand that rationale. If I were in the same boat, I'd do the same thing, but that becomes part of the issue is should we really be how much do parents think these are needed in their children's lives, and how much are they willing to pay for them? And so that's part of the question when you analyze the labs versus the one-to-one. Are parents really that vested in them that they think they're that important that, oh yes, absolutely, we'll pay and send one or buy one. And I think a lot of times you get it to the lease type purchase, that you pay so many payments and it's yours type thing. Anyway, so that was one question. The other, is a question for the board. Is does anybody here have the thought that we would ever pass any of those costs on to the parents? And if the answer is no, that may help you guys, make your decision and figure out where you're going.
I agree, and those are valid. And the other thought that I'm gonna throw out there as well is I would invite you guys to come to our technology committee meetings. Right? They're every 2 weeks. Sarah can send you guys out the times. I encourage you guys to come because I think it's important to get that dialogue of back and forth, right? Of what we're thinking and what you guys are thinking. They've been longer than an hour, but I think it's still good to get that input. And I guess to get your information too, because I think you can gather a lot of information from there. Because there's a lot of, I don't want to say debate, but there's a lot of conversation about pros and cons. And that's the thing about the iPads is it wasn't really an option at the last lease, right? iPads were pretty new, they're pretty expensive. It was a laptop thing. So we're just experimenting and wanting to explore the other side of the world, right? Of what this has to offer. Apple came in and did a presentation of how it's used in the classroom, and it was very well received. A lot of people got a lot of good ideas from it, and principals are telling me that they'd like to keep the momentum going in their building, right? There was some excitement. So that's kind of what this does as well. It keeps that going and finding what fits our needs.
This is your top priority in your budget right now?
Yes.
What?
I got some other ones that are really close.
We've got those budget constraints, and just like we did on the gym floors, is this your priority as of right now?
It is, and the budget side of this, right, from the tech department side, from the IT department, is we had $50,000 budgeted for general desktops and replacements, right? Well, with the way the tech committee's talking and labs and what we're doing, I don't know if that's wise to invest that money into those labs right now. So what we're doing is we're wanting to bring in some of these devices, test them out. We've got, the district will put them to use, right? I get emails at least once a week asking if we have any iPads to use. So yeah, I'd say it is a priority for us right now.
So if the teachers are using these iPads and a kid brings his own iPad to school, are iPads allowed in school right now? Can you bring one?
Not by, I don't think, I think you can bring one. I don't know if you can use it in class. I don't know what that rule is.
Marty? Do any of the kids bring their own iPads to school now? No. Okay.
But back to the buy your own device, BYOD, it still works.
On that note,
I had to think about that one for a second. We could offer that, right, through the district. And if you read through them surveys, that for the BYOD survey, it wasn't shut out, right? It was an option that was well taken in from the ones that completed the survey. So
I guess to clarify that point, are you looking at high school level or K-12 or I just so
Yes.
whatever.
I think you've got to, and maybe it's different levels. I mean, at the high school, if we're looking at a take-home option,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
think that would, yeah.
But even at the lower levels, I would think you'd have. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a fee versus an
If they
ownership
wanna-
type thing, or
Yeah, and some
or
people
if
may
you
wanna
buy your own, you don't
buy
pay
it.
the fee or something like that.
well, and there could be a thing of if they,
But we could research all
yeah,
that.
there's research, but
You'll have accountability.
there'll be accountability. I think there has to be accountability through
What's that?
all grades of where it's implemented,
Right
right?
now-
Whatever's implemented.
Right now, there's none. What's that?
Are you talking about the kids?
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Accountability was.
Obviously, there's a lot of data to still gather, work to be done, but regardless, moving forward, right now, the way I interpret it, there really is no accountability. Something happens, bring it into the setup at the high school, they'll fix it, send it in, get parts, whatever, there's no cost, there's no out-of-pocket expense to,
I wouldn't say there's no cost.
Okay.
If it's deemed intentional, right, there's a cost associated to it. If you lose a charger, there's a cost associated to it. But accidental damage is covered. so, and failure. So, yeah.
With the iPads?
No, with our current
Okay.
setup, I was just going off of what.
On the iPads, can I ask you a few more questions?
Sure.
One, additional costs, keyboards, if they don't, a lot of those include the case, but are we looking at that? Are we looking at costs for cases? Are we looking at screen protectors? And then, what about functionality with other equipment in the buildings right now? And some of the functionality, I understand, may just have to deal with for now, but long-term will be an issue. But have we looked at those costs? And then the other question kind of ties into that, but can we get by with like 30 to 50 on a trial basis to see? So that way we make sure that when we're done, we know we can use them if we don't. But, I would be a lot more comfortable with somewhere in that number versus buying 100 to 150 on a trial basis, especially if we find out that they don't work.
I agree. So let's go first or last first, right? So keep in mind, we're trying 100 to potentially purchase 2,800, right? I mean, that's a big number. It's a very big number. And the staff are the ones that are going to have to see if it fits into, if they can make their class fit that, right? That's the biggest factor I have. It's not the internet side of it, this web surfing. It's finding the content, finding out what they're going to have to change if they do change, if this fits what they need. So when I look at 100, yeah, 100's a big number, but it's not that big when you look at it from a district perspective, right?
Now, are they looking at this both ways? Because there's two ways to look at this. There's the tool that the teacher uses to teach, but there's the tool that the student needs to learn.
You're 100% right. So we're getting a deeper dive into this, but so another school district, I'll use Great Bend. I speak with Great Bend. So they do laptops for their staff and then iPads as a tool, right? Flexible classroom, whatever that may be. They've actually expanded the life of their laptops by issuing the staff the iPads because they have found that the staff takes them a lot more, they're travelable a lot more. The laptop stays more stationary. So there are some school districts that can say they've proved that and they can extend their lease and their utilization of those devices. So, yeah.
But are we looking at piloting any of this with kids to see if it actually helps them learn?
We are.
Rather than as a teaching tool?
If it doesn't get past staff, it doesn't go to kids, right? Because it's the staff that has to adapt or change the way they're doing, right? And I don't know if there is any change. That's speculating.
Yeah, that's my concern with go ahead, Marty.
No, I just,
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit, and I don't want to belabor everything we talked about the last time, but I think really for me, the bottom line is what is the need? Are we just trying to educate students on how to use technology? And if that's the need, do we need 2,800 machines, or can we do that in some sort of course that they sign up for and learn that? Or is it somehow to adapt these other tools that might be out there, software, apps, whatever it is, to the classroom? And those are all good things, and I think you could probably say it's a mix of all of those things. But the question becomes okay, this is what we're going to say we need it for this. How do we come back and measure that? James touched on a little bit. Here's what we said we need it for. Here's those list of things it's supposed to do, and here's how we're going to test that. So, I'd like to see us be able to test it a year from now to see how we're doing, because instead of waiting till the end of it, if it's a 3 or 4 year lease, and coming back and saying, well, didn't really do what we thought it was going to do. If we do it after a year, you can revise and decide, well, we did a poor job of implementing it, or we need to do this piece or that. But I just want to make sure that we're not just buying a piece of technology so we can say we have a piece of technology. I want to make sure that you can run software, and if we need to buy it, let's buy it, that can show that not only do we have it, but we can show when it's being used, and not just to check Facebook or to or message or do things like that, but we can show that it's actually being used for these students. Some of those may not show up on test scores. Hopefully they do, but they may not. But at least we can demonstrate and feel good to tell the public that, hey, they're getting used, and here's how much.
Something that Dean and I have talked about, and Brian and I have also talked about, this was an accountability piece from the administrative level, whether that be, obviously we'd have to start small because it's new to a lot of our staff members, but that we would need to have something in place, and that would be a discussion that the administrators would need to have, but to have that accountability from the beginning. If come next fall, whatever we roll out, regardless of platform or whatever, but requiring technology lesson plans, showing what they're using. At one point, I had an Excel spreadsheet made that we had used in a previous building of what type of technology was being used, what standard did it meet, and those types of things. That's where we're going to get that data. But at this point, we've never done that, to my knowledge. But that's something that's already, we've kind of started that discussion already for whatever we get for next fall.
And I think those are great things. I don't know if that answers all of the questions, but I know it's a great first step. But to me, I think you've got to have that piece that gets rolled out at the same time as the rest of it, because if not, it makes it real easy to not do it.
Right,
And
which is why we've started those discussions already 8 months in advance before we start that major rollout, before we get it with teachers and students.
I don't think you have to have it before you demo 50 units, but.
Can we settle on 75?
I started at 30.
So. Okay, so I think the key for me, and from last Monday to tonight, is if I look at this purchase of 30, 50, 75, or 100, wherever we end up, I'm not looking at approving this as we're purchasing this to demo these iPads. I'm looking at as you are purchasing these iPads as part of your total technology plan for the district. You see where they will ultimately end up, which I'm hearing is either SPED or the elementary school. We've already have enough data in our possession from the technology committee, from these surveys, to understand that they are ready to use those iPads. And therefore, we're going to go ahead and make that purchase now, knowing that that is the intended use, and we will be demoing them at the middle school and high school who has not yet made that decision. Is that a correct statement, or am I putting words in your mouth?
That's a very correct statement.
Okay.
Just to elaborate on that just a little bit, I wasn't working today, but I stopped by Roosevelt because I had something to do there this morning, but I looked at their iPad. They have a cart that Home and School gave to them or purchased for them, and I looked at the checkout, and I was shocked about how often that is checked out, right? And then the feedback that I hear is, so I know this 100 sounds like it's a big number, right? And it is a big number, right? I'm like, it is a large number, however you look at it. But a lot of staff say, I don't know what to do with some of these. So we're also educating our staff. I mean, there's a whole nother side of this of professional development that we need to get into, and we need feedback from staff to know what we need to start looking to build in for the rest of this year, this summer, and next year to get them using the devices the way that we want them to be used. So that answers kind of some of your question of.
Before you say I have one question for you, and it relates to a number, and I'm going to pin you on hopefully to a lower number, but you indicated before that you didn't think if it was 100 that you would have usage for that right now, or if we didn't go that direction. How many would you have usage for?
Usage.
Well, I mean, if we don't, you were talking about if we bought 100 and we didn't use them, you said they'd get used, and you said something to the effect of, well, maybe not all 100 or something.
I was saying SPED.
Special ed.
For special. What's that number then?
Our special ed are collaborative graders. We could use a lot in that, but the elementaries are going to use a lot as well.
But I guess what I'm saying is if we knew that we definitely use 60 or 70.
How many would you, I mean,
We could still have 100 tomorrow.
You could.
Oh. Well, I mean, you could do 2,800 though too. Everybody take one, but are we going to use them?
I could soak up 100 with use of kids tomorrow. What we need to look at in technology, we're not looking at the big leagues right now. We're looking at getting us started with 100 computers. Whatever you approve tonight, we're hoping 100 to get them out in the hands of people and try them, get them going, start professional development, start working with kids a little bit, all the things we can do with 100 machines. That won't get us too far down the road. It's just a beginning to get going with that where they're not going now.
But the concern is if we go to a different direction, and you bought 100 of something, that's the type of car we're going to buy later, and then decide, no, we don't need them. So we don't buy cars to do that. But I think I'm okay buying a set number of them that we know that we can use, but you could demo those by somebody having it for 60 days, and they give it to the next person that they use it for 60 days, and then we decide, oh, yes, that is what we want, and then you have those. But the risk is if you don't, you've just thrown away $40,000.
I just don't look at us throwing away $40,000 because I think we have the need and we're investing. Home and School's investing in them still this year. The need isn't going to change. They've been buying them. We have iPad 1s. We've been buying them since first generation. It isn't something that I'm bringing to the school district by any means. It's already here. So it's really embracing what some of the schools are already doing and bringing them in and starting to manage them and create the platform to where we can be usable, right? To where they can download apps from a district type approach instead of you have an account, you download your stuff, I think the need is, the want will be there regardless of, we've been a Windows shop for 8 years and they're still doing it. So I don't think that need will change.
Okay, one last question here before you take over.
Brian. Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought.
Okay, so your 100 iPads, those are all middle school, high school. I mean, it's pretty clear cut. I've got 2 kids in elementary school. They want iPads. That's what they utilize. That's what the kids learn with, all of that. So let's say middle school, high school demos these 100 iPads. Is it basically the plan of the technology committee right now to say K through 5 or K through 3 is basically 100% we want iPads?
I would say that there's 71% based on the survey data we've gotten back from them.
We're never going to get 100%.
You'll never get 100% buy-in regardless.
Right, but it's leaning so far one way that there's really nothing that could sway it back.
Bobby, you want to answer that?
This is Bobby Dinkel, and she's with the technology committee as well, so.
Okay, I'm fifth grade at Roosevelt. I talked to a lot of elementary teachers from my building and throughout the district through the course of all of this, and I can tell you that there is an overwhelming push that iPads are the direction that most people want to go. Now, there are some teachers that will say, I don't know, but the reason they don't know is because they haven't had enough experience with enough different devices or with that specific platform. When we went to the Apple presentation, I had one specific teacher, for example, that is down in kindergarten, and she went and she uses very little of the technology in her classroom right now, but she's an excellent teacher, and when she left there, she was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that much with these, this young of a child, to be engaged in learning in that way and have them all engaged simultaneously through the use of the iPad and the Apple TV. She's like, I think not only could I use a few of those in my room, but I would be able to use one for every student at the same time. And so I think the teachers we have that are not certain, the ones that I talked to that said they didn't know, it wasn't that they didn't maybe want an iPad, but that right now they don't have enough information. So I would really like to encourage at least some of those 100 to trickle down to the elementary, even though I feel like our decision is made, because that allows us to start our professional development with those teachers that aren't, you may think, oh, everybody's had an iPad, everybody's, I don't know, done their Angry Birds on that at night or whatever someone might use it for, but that's not true. And so if we're leaning that direction, we need to get those in the hands of the teachers. They need to experience what they can do on it for themselves. Once they feel comfortable with it, then they can start exploring the engagement that they can have with their students on those. And it's not just about saying we have iPads or we have this technology. It's not just about having a machine sitting there. It's about the way we can educate and the way that we can engage all of our students and make them ready to move forward and be the best of the best, which is what we're trying to do.
Do we have the ability to take those 100 or 75 or whatever number we buy and see how much they're actually used when we get them in here?
So, without spending more money,
Do they have an hour meter on them, I guess is what he
No,
said.
it's not
I'm
an hour
saying,
meter
I
on
mean,
it.
I mean,
It's hard to
because-
gauge, so, and I've had this conversation with a couple other people. It's hard for IT to gauge utilization because they're not always used online. They could be doing a Word doc, they could be doing something with one of them as 6 kids, right? So that kind of trickles down to the building level, and that's where I think when Shannon was talking about the accountability part, right? Is engaging these people and the staff that have them and getting them their feedback, right? How often can you use them? How, it's real, get real data, right? I mean, we handed down some older machines. Some of them work great, some of them don't. I think it's just, we need to break that mold and start bringing in some newer technology to have them used.
As part of this program, then, if we move forward with it, it wouldn't be a stretch then for those who are, we'll just say, automatically enrolled in this, because those are the ones that are going to have the iPads placed in their hands. They could have some sort of a value spreadsheet then, where at the end of the week, 4 hours on curriculum development, 3 hours on just flat out surfing it, checking it out, whatever. Well, that wouldn't be for this program, that wouldn't be a far stretch then, would it?
No, you're on the right track there, because the idea of giving it to them and then just getting feedback is not the plan, right? We're wanting to create something. We ordered these, we won't have them tomorrow, right? So we have some work ahead of us to get them out. But creating that way to feedback or how to gauge how they're using it or if it's useful, right, is the other side that we still have to
Well, at least,
finalize.
I mean, that's the cheap way to do it, which would be at least a lot better than just saying, here, take these and let us know if you like them later on, and maybe you have a lot more in place or ideas than that. But if you do, tell us, because to me, I'm just thinking of, you're going to get this, and you are going to have those people that are going to go, I've never had this. Maybe played Candy Crush or whatever other, and so if that's all people are going to do with it, and we have no means by which to see if they're actually going to see how it implements to the classroom. And I don't want to overgeneralize or get into a debate about what they're going to use it for, because we can all say they're going to use it for only educational purposes, but we don't know. When they take it home, when it leaves your hands, you don't know.
I would expect it to be a combination of everything.
I agree, and I think with working with principals and selecting these people that will be getting the devices, we're not, I know it's tough. I don't say we have any slouchers in our district, right, that would do that, but I think that everyone would rise to the standard of what we're looking for and give us good feedback.
And that would be great, but, I mean, the numbers speak against the idea that that's going to happen. I mean, it's just, you've got 300-plus people, I mean, it's just, it would be great to be able to say every one of them is the best teacher in the nation, but we all know that just can't be. Everybody's different, so.
I agree, and then so on the handoff side of it, right, rotating it, some of the things that I've read and is getting people engaged, right? So you can't guarantee that you give it to 5 people in the room, all 5 are going to be interested in it, right? If you have 1 interested out of the 5, then that person can spread, right? So it's also getting them out to people, assign them for a duration of time, and have them work on them. I mean, I truly believe that the interest in our district is there to find out if this is a suitable, economical way of pursuing technology. Because compared to our previous lease, it's half the cost of what we've been spending on a device.
Shannon and Marty, can you guys speak to the accountability side of this for that feedback? I mean, the follow-up and who you're selecting to roll these out to? Everyone, okay.
I know that's not realistic, obviously, with the reduction in numbers. We went to Shawnee Heights today. We left at about 6:45. We went out some teachers and got back at 6 to 9. And it was nothing but conversation the entire way. And we just, again, as far as the high school is concerned, Sarah, we really want to make the right decision. I talked to Brian at some length last Friday as far as looking at other tablet devices too. So we know what we're choosing between, so we're good consumers. It's interesting when you go, and we saw some very high-performing teachers today with the integration of this as a teaching tool and in the hands of the kids as a learning tool. And we saw some that were really, really struggling. They were new to their system. They hadn't been in that environment before. Their I don't want to say they were slackers, because I don't think they were, but they were teachers that weren't pushed yet to integrate technology in the way they were teaching and how kids were learning in the classroom. With regard to accountability, we talked some with them about that today, and both to administration and their tech directors and a few teachers there. There's an awful lot of pressure within their school, and this is their third year in using the iPad in their tablet in their environment. They really put a lot of pressure on one another. And it's interesting that what the influence of for example, a young science teacher that we talked to and watched teach has on those middle-of-the-road people that really could go one way or the other. It's been a very, very positive influence. And the others, quite honestly, had to really decide if that's a school they want to stay in, because they understand that's the direction that school is going. We talked a little bit about data. Also, what data pieces, and you're not going to like this next response, but I like data, I like numbers, I think those are important things. Their instructional coach, they have a full-time instructional coach in that school in Shawnee Heights alone, who really works and models and demonstrates, and will go in and do a science. He's not a science teacher or a former science teacher, but he'll go in and do a science lesson, integrating technology, which is a whole nother level of professional development for our teachers. Going in and having a teacher observe your teaching and make recommendations and teach you apps, that was really an exciting piece of what they're doing at Shawnee Heights High School also. But getting back to the data piece, he said, frankly, I don't care about data. And it really goes back to what Ryan just said. He said, if we get engagement, the data will come. And I guess time will tell. But up front, they're expected to use it. Alan Beam, the principal there, said, I have not dictated to teachers that they will use it every day. But if you go ask my teachers, they're going to tell you differently. So I haven't said it, but they understand the expectation in this school is we're going to be a technologically enhanced instructional school. And so it's that expectation that they share.
I think the idea of having somebody to come into the classroom and help, because I think that's one of your bigger problems, and I'd rather see us roll this out on a smaller scale, not what we're talking about tonight, but the whole project, and have money in the budget for those people that can help to teach them how to use it. Because if you can't, some people just aren't going to get it.
You know, it is exciting. It is an exciting. It is an exciting thought to think that what we're trying to do with our poor folks at Ace High is try to give them that common plan. Buying an extra day from your general fund budget is pretty tough. But if we really do see benefits in the things that our math and science are doing, we'll roll out into our next two core areas next year and have common plans. I think when you get teachers together that are hardworking, they're smart, and they care about kids, and they want kids to do well, that's a good mixture if you can get them in the same room. Our problem always is, how do you find enough professional development time with our teachers? We're being as creative as we can. I shared this with you before, but we're going to continue on that path. We're going to add not one department next year like I thought we probably would. I think we need to go. We need to just do it and do it too. They learn with each other and they challenge each other. It was exciting listening to the teachers talk on the way back today. I'm not a salesperson. I am really open-minded right now. I still wonder if laptops aren't the way to go for our kids. I'm not so certain that this can't be done with kids. I really don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I will tell you some common things that we've found in every school that we've talked to many of them. This teacher would have, if you went to some type of Surface or a tablet device, this but a laptop also. Some people are really concerned about kids typing on this flat surface. I'm pitiful at it. Kids aren't. Kids aren't. And that's really what we have to keep thinking about. I keep saying, as a 53-year-old guy, I don't like it. But I'm telling you, that's why I have, Greg, I have a keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard that I use with mine. That's probably helpful for the teachers. But the kids, they bought 35 of them, 32 set of storage.
But with the kids, though, they're using it to text, and so they've got a whole shorthand that they've created for that. But if you're having them type a term paper or something of that nature, I think you're going to have a whole different aspect.
What about today is we were allowed to talk to kids also without any adult member from the Shawnee Heights staff there. So they were just painfully truthful with us. And what we're finding is the younger kids, the freshmen, the sophomore, they're very open to this. The juniors and seniors, less so. Less so. I don't, that was consistent in every group that we talked to, and each one of us was in a different group of kids. So we probably talked to 15 different kids from Shawnee Heights. And some of them were high flyers. They showed us some of their products. I'm rambling. I came back with 8 pages of notes and questions and probably more confusion than when we went. But it was a very, very worthwhile trip. It was worth our time to go to ask the tough questions and see it being utilized in the schools very well in many cases and not so well in others.
So they've had iPads for 3 years. Is that what you said?
They started with freshmen and sophomores 2 years ago, and this year they were just going to add the junior class, and instead they decided to add the juniors and the seniors.
And is it a one-to-one where they're able to take the iPad home?
Yes, it is. And to talk about the covers, they charged a $25 fee to help absorb some of the costs for the covers. I can't remember the brand name that they chose, and they also had, in their user agreement, they take that off, all the warranty is voided for that student. And we said, do you have a rule against putting stickers and decorating and everything? And because we just didn't see it. And they said, no, they don't have a policy. But we didn't seem to see a lot of that. So, very interesting. It was worth our day. We don't have all the answers, but we are interested in seeing what mobile technology, we call them tablets, but mobile technology is capable of doing, and whether we're the kids' last shot, and that's why we didn't do a survey. And I want you to know, it's not because I think I can tell you the results. If we take a survey of our Hayes High staff and say, what do you want? This that they know very little about or nothing, or what you've done for 8 or 10 or 5 years, depends on your length with us, I think we're setting ourselves up for an answer that really backs us into a corner. We need to know what we're choosing between. We've got a smart, hardworking staff. We know that they can learn. It's just a matter of what is best, not necessarily for our teachers, but what is best for our students. And that the teachers can move along with them. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have anything to add?
I was just going to add, Marty did wonderful, but back to the usage part in the training and the professional development. That's something that we've kind of already started at the middle school with the 6th grade teacher, Ted Foster, and myself have already been brainstorming about all the different subject areas and grade levels, things that I know they're already from doing our evaluations and our walkthroughs, the things that I know that they are teaching, what they could use that device for if one of those iPads or any device goes into their classrooms. Something that we talked about was using we were very lucky at the middle schools where our grade level teams meet on a daily basis for one class period. Setting aside at least one day a week is something that we've thrown out just in conversation of using that as a development time for, if we want to just break it by departments or grade levels, what are those apps that we can utilize, whether it's Google Play apps or iPad apps, regardless. But that development is going to be crucial. And so those are things that we're already talking about because we know it's coming in the future, we just don't know what form. So those are things we're talking about, using our department times where it's cross grade level, all of our departments. So we're thinking about those things because that's something that the board asked us last week at the work session, was that accountability piece, what we're really going to use it for. At this point, it's a little bit unknown because we're in the same boat as what Marty is at the high school. A lot of our teachers haven't had an iPad. They haven't had that digital learning environment. They haven't grown up with it. And as Marty said, the freshmen and sophomores is who they started it with, and then they were more comfortable with it. Well, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders have had that in their world even longer. So we don't foresee that being it's more of a teacher hang-up than a student hang-up. And those are just obstacles that we're going to have to overcome at some point. But it's the development of our teachers that is going to make this sink or swim. And if we don't invest in that and take that time up front to help them along the way with what is a power app that they can use in reading and language language arts? Is that an app that can, which we found out, that's also an app that can be used in science and social studies. So those are things we don't want to go crazy with it, but we need to start giving them something to start with so that they're not just swimming blindly. So I think a lot of that is already happening in our buildings.
So when you roll out these 100, or whatever the number is, will there be some guidance? I mean, will there be ideas, you know, for science you need to look at these apps, for math you need to look at these apps? I mean, are we providing some guidance
Definitely,
there?
we're going to get some guidance also from people that know the Apple world, right, that are living in it right now. That's the purpose of making those relationships like Shawnee Heights and getting those people that we can reach out to their educational coordinators. Elementary's going to Goodland this week, and
We go to Dodge City on
Dodge City, but it's making those, getting the familiar faces and meeting people, right, and having people to call and bounce ideas off of, because we're not fortunate enough to have that educational coordinator position right now, but everybody has to step into that role, right, and try to find information for themselves too. So.
We're seeking services from other people. Cindy Dannerkin, some of you may know her, she used to work at Fort Hays, has offered to come down and help train our teachers. She's been living in the Apple world for a long time, and 2 days a week she teaches at K-State, and the other 3 days of the week she spent in classrooms as that technology director, curriculum integrator. And so several schools have been in contact with her already, and she's really excited and hopeful for us.
I want to, just a couple of quick comments, because these guys know their tech, and Ted's sitting here and has been working with the teachers, but I want to steal something from Nancy very quickly. After the Apple presentation the other day, she said she saw a spark in so many teachers' eyes of what they can do. I see that spark in a lot of our teachers' eyes, but also this week, Shannon and I were talking, I see a high stress level right now. Are we going to make the right decision? And we need it in our hands to make the right decision. Because the more I talk, the more Shannon talks, the more Ted talks, our teachers are stressed out. How can we make this important decision without having it right in our hands? We can't give it to the science teachers for 30 days and then wait another 30 days to give it to the math teachers and then another 30 days to give it to the language arts teachers. We need to make this investment because the teachers are taking it serious. Because I had a couple texts as I was sitting here. I think every teacher in our building, every teacher in this district can get better if they have the right tools. And that's what we're trying to make this important decision. What are the right tools? So I am cheerleading while these guys are doing their background.
You know, that's how we would just have to prioritize. Brian would somehow distribute the numbers based on the different grade levels and kids, and I would have to prioritize. I would have to try to put in the hands of teachers who would really be in that classroom setting using it the most. I have an idea. Depends, if he gives me everybody, to cover everybody.
So he's going to be the Gestapo of the iPads?
I don't know. I look at
You'll wield a big sword if you.
We've got the original list, and then we've decided we could do one for this department, one for this department, and it's a bad situation to be in because you always want that. And that's how we've been able to pare it down from what we talked about last week, last week, is getting it to where we can get it to maybe a departmental type thing, and that's why we're getting down to that number, right? It's, like I said, I know it's a big number, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem that large to me.
So why not order 50 this month and order 50 next month and get underneath the $20,000 budget?
Because I just think that wouldn't be the right thing to do.
Very good. Good answer.
I mean, I thought about it, but I mean, it's not the right thing to do.
Well, my take on it is you've got 300 teachers roughly. 75 is 25%. I mean, you're going to put it in a third of the hands. I mean, at some point, you just say, well, why don't we just buy 300 some of them and just give everybody one and see what we come back with. Now,
ideally, I think that's what
the problem with that is if you get, maybe I was looking at something over here while you were talking, but if we're talking about iPads and laptops for everybody, Would that be great? Yes, I have it. It's nice, and I use a laptop when I want to use a laptop, and I use my iPad when I want to use my iPad. The problem is I pay for those myself, and we don't have the money to pay for one for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, no, you can't.
Yeah, I think we're, I think we peel
We've still
back
got-
from that conversation.
We've still
further.
got hundreds of them.
Huh?
I mean, we've still got hundreds of laptops. So even those scenarios where, I mean, and we're putting the cart way before the horse here. But the,
Yeah.
We can,
the
I
word
mean,
processing, the business models, I mean, we've
Brian
still
and I
got.
talked about some of
you
that.
can
We've got
repurpose
things.
a lot of those and put a little bit of money in them and they can last a long.
I think
You
100,
can't use them anymore.
We had some conversations about that.
Yeah.
I think 100 is still a small sample size for the school district as a whole. I don't want to step into your business here, but as you, let's say this goes forward, you're placing them in the hands of teachers. You're doing it from high technology users all the way down to, I mean, we're getting the best sample aliquot that we can. Okay. We're not just throwing them in the hands of,
Yeah.
you three. You know what
No, and
I mean?
I believe our subcommittees were built on the same, on that same thought process.
But if you're going to sample them, wouldn't you be better off putting them in the hand of your power users? Because they're going to be the ones that figure out how you can use them.
Well, it depends.
And then you
That's why
can,
we need that mix,
No,
because we need those power users to pull our.
but that's where your trainer then makes everybody power
That's the
users.
same
Or,
We don't have that person yet.
Need a bell
Trying
curve.
to
but
make
that
everybody a power user.
but the problem is you're going to try and make people power users, one, that don't know how to use it and are terrified of it. And so somehow you got to figure out how they're going to become that. Well, you don't have that person. I think it needs to be part of whatever plan you bring back to us, that you have maybe more than one of those people. But, you know, I think that's probably more important on the aspect of technology. It's great to go throw it in everybody's hands, but to expect that everybody's going to be the same, well, we just know, I mean, past history will tell us that that's just not the case.
The thing was going to be is,
And we had that person on the first lease, kind of.
We did, and that person was utilized immensely, and it was very sad when that person went away. I used her bi-weekly in my classroom. I know Bobby also had her. She was in our building when I was at Washington.
I think she's still in the buildings, isn't she?
Yes, but as.
Just in a different role.
Right, but in that particular role, I mean, she was at Washington at least 3 days a week, working with the teachers to implement and create and roll stuff out, and then.
I just think that, and then it's kind of a different topic of what we're discussing, but I think that position, whether it's one or two or three or however many you need, that's much more important than the technology. Because if you give everybody the technology, but only those that can figure out on their own know how to use it, you've wasted a bunch of money.
I agree. I think it's important to poll all users though.
Oh, no, you're going to have to bring up the bottom ones and get everybody to
Find
that
out where
level, but
they're
you've got to
at.
have that person to bring them up, because you,
And the other thing of it, the other side of it is that when you're dealing with iPads, you're talking about content, right? A lot more content than you are how the device works. The functionality is part of it, but content is where you're going to spend most of your time doing research. So I think to have those people to be able to say, hey, how about, I found this, I found that, I think it's important, right? And I think, I think 100's less than I'd like, but I'm willing to, I think I'm willing to compromise.
You're going to fall on your sword for 100?
What is your recommendation?
My recommendation is we purchase 100 iPads and distribute them throughout the district so we can get some good feedback. We already got good feedback from the surveys, and make sure that we're going to be able to utilize these correctly.
I make a motion to accept Brian's technology update and purchasing program for 100 iPads.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Board Member Patterson, a second from Board Member Waddell to accept Brian's recommendation for 100 iPads or to go out to bid. Is that the way it
And
reads?
it'll be purchased through state contract through the WISCA.
Okay. Any more discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian, and everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone who
Brian,
participated in that.
All right, up next, item E, facilities needs.
At the at the work session, we had talked about what we need to do to kind of go forward with education, talking about setting up committees, those types of things on facility needs and future bond issue. I don't want to confuse anybody and think that this is your vote to pursue a bond issue. This is just that when we start going out and doing building tours, those things, that we're going to look at the big picture of everything, like the board or the committee's recommendation was 100 million in that ballpark, but to look at that as a starting point and go forward. So what I'm asking is the board to approve that we proceed with the process of looking at the future bond issue. Not that we're past saying we are right now, but at least start the education piece and gather some more information.
Okay, is there a motion on the table?
I make a motion that we proceed with a bond issue election
Okay,
during
we
the
have-
fall of 2015.
We have a motion by Board Member Rankin, second by Board Member Lang. Any discussion?
I guess I have one question, and I guess it's a board question, but what level of discussion does the board want on that, on the entire issue? I mean, I'm not just from whether we go forward, but what the plan looks like, what's included in the plan. When we have a recommendation from Facility Needs Committee, do we want, I mean, are we going to debate it? Are we going to accept it? I mean,
Do we need to set aside some time in a work session, start digging down to piece parts and?
well, I think we need to decide what level we want to dig, if at all, first, and then if we do, then figure out how we get there.
That's great question. I think we have to go even a step farther. Remember the original facility needs, how everything was prioritized from building to building to building to building? So you got the list of needs, and you kind of see how there was a hierarchy to it. Then you have the wants, obviously, that were tied into it. We need a lot in this school district. So, I mean, I think we almost have to go back to what are the most important things that we have to get done in this school district. Because I don't believe that everything is on an even Steven basis. I think there are some issues that definitely are going to take precedence over some others. Not that they're not all needs. I mean, those are definitely identified and they are there. But we've talked several times tonight about prioritization. We talked to transportation, we talked to building and grounds, and now we've talked to technology. Well, I think that has to apply to our school district as a whole. So I would want to start at that level. What is the most important things that we get done in the next 5 to 10 years? And
Well, I think it helps focus you. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's going to focus you on if a bond doesn't pass. And those
What
are
do
going
we
to be your
need to do?
priority issues you've got to get done. And, you know, it ties into all those, the buses, the rest of those things, because if a bond doesn't pass and you've got those high pressing needs, then you've got to weigh those out against technology, transportation, anything else we're spending money on out of that budget. I agree.
Well, we can start that at work session, and really, I'll have, need to talk to architect again about, you know, how this rolls out. And then Elizabeth Johnson, I'll get back with her, I mean, but wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page here about the marketing piece, but then I think you're right, we need to sit down and spend the time, but we can do that over the next several months and pick out maybe a building at a time or something and kind of review where we are with those. And
I don't mean any disrespect to HTK at all. They have done a lot of work for a long time. But what is the incentive with HTK?
for,
I guess from efficiency, from cost, from everything. Just, do we stay with just HTK? Or do we explore some other options down those avenues as well?
for architects?
I don't know how I'm a first timer here. I mean, obviously, I'm not doing $100 million
But then aren't we
projects.
paying for all that over again?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, what we paid for, we paid $60,000 to have basically the services they're rendering. Now, if you go a different direction, I don't know if you keep going down that road, but.
We own that, we own X amount of that information, though, that would absorb.
We own all of it at this stage of it,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's.
saying that would absorb X amount of cost.
Yeah, the question is how much more do they owe us on that, if anything?
I'm not saying HDK is not the, I wonder what the incentive is for them there.
$100 million.
Yeah.
They're a percentage of a big bond project, but whatever architect firm you're gonna have is gonna have that same incentive.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, it's just when you put competition in, I don't know.
I've had.
It's just a thought. I'm not saying this is the opinion that I'm adhering to. I just, why do we compete on everything else, but on a 100 million bond, we don't? I mean, why do we send out for bids on milk, but we don't
How did
for-
you
on this?
choose your architect?
That was
before.
done a long time ago. That may have been even before.
I think Greg picked them.
I did help pick them. I was on the board at that time. We had, 3 or 4 different firms that were listed. I think 3 of them actually came out. We did interviews of them. They did presentations on projects they did. Looked at other jobs they were doing in the area and the exact rationale why they rose to the top over the others. I couldn't really tell you, but that's, well, we had a,
Didn't they had done 3 bonds in this level. One of the other ones had only got up to a $50 million.
I don't know as much as that. I think they had some dealings with Fort Hayes that they, that they were using them and that there was some comfort level. I think one of the big things is they had a architect in the area that was local that could oversee things, and that was Terry Holt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember that being a big issue, but other than that, I don't. I know that they all did presentations on what they had done. I don't think they were the ones that did the Atchison School, somebody else did. So if we wanted to take bids from those people, I'd love to have them come give the presentation on that again. So, haven't let that one go yet, so.
Just, this is from my own knowledge. I've never been through this before. And I've never done a $100 million project at my house. So.
Close.
$79 million.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to understand how this works and why we do bid out for everything, but not this. So just something I would like the board to think about, and if somebody's got a great answer for me right now, let me have it, because I'm all ears.
I would say go to the KSB conference. You'll see all kinds of
And
architects.
I so much wanted to, but I am gone. I should have been in Texas.
Well, I think if we're going to have that discussion, it would be fine to have somebody go meet with them, but I think if you're going to do it, you need to bring them here so everybody gets to hear whatever it is. I mean, if you're going to go down that road, you do that.
On the facility needs, we're almost going to have a retreat and spend 4 hours just dealing how far we want to go into it. And if we want to take the recommendation from the facilities needs and run with it, or if we want to tweak it a little bit, I think it's worth a serious sit down with. That took a lot for me to say that.
Well, I think we just need to still approve that we're going to
Yeah.
pursue this. And, it's going to take some time to go through it.
I think it's
So,
ready for
no?
both.
Well, and I think we need to decide, though, from a basic tonight as well, if we're going to take the retreat route, we're going to try and do it at the meetings, just so we have a plan. Because if you're going to try and do a retreat, if it's a half a day or a day, I mean, you're probably several months down the road, or, before you're going to be able to set that. So probably ought to get that started sooner than
We
later.
will. If it's about that time.
Let's try to get a 4-hour retreat set up sometime in the next month and set out one of those schedules where everybody can put in when they're available and see if there's a time where 7 of us can get together.
Okay.
Sarah, that's you?
No.
No.
Oh.
Send that out, see when everybody's schedules line up.
I would make a motion to approve proceeding with the bond issue election during the fall of 2015.
Well, hold on, I think we
We've already got
already
it.
had
We
a
already got
motion on the table.
motion and-
Was it already on there?
Yeah.
We just talked for too long and I forgot.
Well, you got confused on your $79 million house
Yeah.
project.
I apologize. Sorry.
It's okay. All right, so seeing no more discussion, call for the vote.
But can I just, for one point of clarification, we're voting on whether we continue to explore the option of having this, not that we're putting it on a ballot.
Correct.
Right.
very clear. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Judy?
I know she.
Got that too? Okay.
I'll be clear.
All right, so call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to SMART goals.
What I have is, we had set, at our first retreat, we made SMART goals, and what's on the first page, in, some of it's in red there, yes, that one, are what continues with, what continues with the existing ones. Budget and finance, that's going to be continuous, obviously. Review direct, indirect cost, agenda items, all of those things. So we're going to continue with that. The board meeting rules, we are included in that is the board policies. We've had some great discussions with the principals at our meetings. We just need to schedule more time. I know that's the last thing they want to hear. But reviewing those and really getting into depth so everybody understands and asking questions. And we have a list of things then that we feel like we need to clean up or bring back to the board and say, well, this is what, we didn't understand or something. So that process is going real well. Board orientation, obviously, that's going to be a huge thing. I don't know how many of you folks plan on running again. I hope you all do. But we will do a better job of board orientation than what we've done in the past, and get the information out and training and some of those things. The next one, format of the policies, again, we are updating all of those as we go. We will look and see if there's a different way to format those in an easier way, but that's going to take a while. It's going to take us the rest of the year to get through the current policies, I know. Board orientation, again, I had mentioned that. That's a huge priority for, I think, all of us to make sure everybody understands roles, what we do, Robert's Rules of Orders, review all of that type of stuff. And I plan to meet with all of the candidates that do file just before there's any kind of forum or anything, review budget, just some general things so they have some idea of what maybe ask, and so they have some knowledge of how a school district runs. But we will do that before obviously the election, but even before any type of forum. Reorganization of central office, and that's kind of contingent on a bond election. If we want to move this office and relocate, abandon the building, that's all part of that long process. We are looking at options as they come up to see if there's anything that would be more efficient, but we'll continue that. The next one is paid time off and has to do with negotiations. We're working on that. We are trying to get the meeting set up now. There is some interest in calendar committee, and it's just a matter of getting the teachers together with our group and sitting down and start talking. Paid time off was one of those, or leave. I think we combined everything together, and then benefits. Safety program, that'll be ongoing. It's important that we continue to do those things. We meet, I think, this week just to schedule our next safety meeting, but it's going to make a big difference, I think. I'm glad that we got that started. Then the last one, the bid process, and I know Bill has reviewed that. We kind of have a generic document, and actually Sarah is going to start putting that online, that every time we bid a project, it'll be listed online, that, whatever it is, whether, technology, buses, roofs, whatever it is, it'll be listed on there what we're soliciting bids for. So that piece of it's done. The next group of SMART goals our administrative goals. We spent some time on these, and several of them have to do with the processes and how we do business here, hiring and termination process. With the reorganization that we've done in this office, we're still figuring out who's doing what, and we did upgrade the Alio software and working on some of those things, that more training. Tracy's involved in that quite a bit with using that as our hiring, I don't even know, porthole, if that's the right word I need to use, but we've just been kind of hit and miss on some of these things, and really sitting down and developing procedures and who's doing what. So I think that's going to make a huge difference, and that is ongoing. We're doing it right now, but a lot of people involved in that. Recruitment of staff, turnover reduction, analyze how and where we post jobs, competitive classified wages. We just need to look and see how a lot of this has to do with classified staff, how much turnover we have, and again, it has to do with a lot of it wages, although we have good benefits, those things, and then just how we post positions. Are we getting the number of candidates we should for any position? Maintaining positive district image and collaborative culture. I just think we need to continue to promote ourselves in a positive way, the district in general. I mean, I know a lot of the things that James has started here, the awards, especially if we're going to be asking the public to consider bond issue and some of these things. It's just, there's a huge difference in attitudes, atmosphere, and with teachers, everyone, and I think it's very much appreciated what you guys are doing, and we just need to make sure we continue that. And that goes with administration, all of us as well, that we're doing our jobs to keep patting people on the back and giving them credit where credit's due. Just a shared district vision for educational technology and systemic plan of improvement. We spent a lot of time on this. That's what we're doing now with the board, is finalizing. I mean, it's a long process, but our technology plan, our technology vision, where we're going to be, make a sustainable plan that we're not 3, 4, 5 years from now saying the same thing. Now we need to buy everything new, and we're working on that with buses, with computers, with roofs, everything, and I think we will see a big difference in the future. Budget-wise, we'll be much more efficient in that sense. Again, create framework for instructional digital learning environment that prepares students to be competitive in a global technology, you know what I mean, society. That's that discussion coming into play here. So, but we need to set goals and have expectations for students and staff on how we're going to use technology, and hold people accountable for that. Professional learning is key. We've said it over and over again tonight, that we have to come up with a plan to be able to do that. We're just setting teachers up for failure if we don't give them the training they need to really implement what we're talking about. Achieve student growth outcomes in the student-centered environment with research-based effective instruction aligned to standards. Shanna is working, that's where she is this evening. She was in Topeka all day looking at standards, studying that. That's making plans. I think Joanne, I don't know if she's still here, I think she was here, but looking at what we need to do for our staff, again, to teach them, train them, give them the information they need to look at the new standards, and again, hold people accountable, but we have to do our job as administrators to give them the time, the effort, materials they need to do that. So big project there, but I know we're going to start making a lot of headway. Develop a fully electronic payroll system. A lot of these things are just, I don't know, I know you're still in training doing all of the things with Alio and that whole big system that we really didn't use to its potential in the past. we're going to be holding people accountable for that, and I think it's going to save us a lot of time and effort and have a system that we can trust. Right now, and I probably shouldn't say that, but right now, I mean, even going into the system, it hasn't been updated the way it should, and there may be a teacher that it hasn't been here for a year, still in the system, and you just never know. When we ask, well, how many teachers do we have, how many this or that, you always have to double check, and it takes that much more time just because you don't know if that system has been cleaned up or not, or the data. So Tracy's working on that with her staff, and they're getting there, but it's just going to take some time. So, but that's what we have for now. And when we do our retreat, I think we had talked about January. We need to sit down and look at SMART goals and go through what the board's goals will be, and look at that piece of it then in the near future. So,
Would you be better off waiting on a retreat till April?
well, with that piece of it, but if we look at the facility needs thing, or is that what you're
No,
talking
I would
about?
say you'd go forward on that, but I'm saying that SMART goals, I'd push off until April.
We can do that for the boards, but like ours, I'd like to get some input, on that. It doesn't have to be that piece of it at a retreat, but I'd like to spend a lot of time with that. I guess what I'm asking then is if you would approve what we have right here now, so we kind of have a guide to follow and go for, and we'll keep them updated and let you know where we are.
On the January 2015, the Alio, is that this January? So in 2 months?
Yep.
2 months? Yeah. So no more paper checks?
It was supposed to come out, the electronic timesheet through Alio was supposed to come out at the end of October. I have not heard yet if that has been completed. So we kind of set it as January, if that's our hope, when we're at least going to be able to start seeing the system. Whether we'll fully implement it in January, I'm not sure. It just depends on how easy it is, what kind of training we're going to need for our staff. So there's a lot of decisions that will still need to be made, but we're hoping at least by January to see it and get an feel for it better.
We're just putting some pressure on Tracy.
Yeah. Does Alio create an entire portal for all employees to where they can check pay stubs, they can check insurance, they can?
We use an applicant portal right now. We are totally paperless in our direct deposit remittances and things like that. We are getting in the process of upgrading that. It's a required upgrade. So we just had training late last week on that, and so it's very similar to what our employees are using now, but it has more functionality where they can change their address online, some things like that. So, we should be having that out in the next month or two also.
Is that all through Alio, or is that through another system?
That's through Alio.
So we will keep you updated on those. But there's a lot of things that's going to save us a lot of time and effort, and know who's doing what. So excited about it.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the SMART goals that Dean has put forth and to pursue further along that lines.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Board Member Patterson, a second by Board Member Rankin. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Item 12, discussion by board members and agenda requests.
I had one, you were talking about policy issues, and do we have a good bidder qualification process in place?
Bidder qualification.
Pre-qualification?
Bill, I'm going to turn over to you. I don't know if it's a good. I'd
have to review the policy. I'm not sure we have anything. The rest is bidder qualification.
And I didn't bring it down here.
I think
normally
we do.
that's sorted out in the bid process.
And the only reason I bring it up is, we had an issue in the past on that, and if we're looking at doing a bond issue, definitely something you want to get done before you go down that road. But
Yeah, and there's all kinds of people calling. I mean, it's like sharks in the water, when you start talking about that, you have.
Well, the concern is
So,
you don't
yeah.
want to have, or for me, is I don't want to have we get the bond approved and we send out bids and somebody wins it and then we try and say, well, we don't want that because they're not qualified. And then end up in some potential litigation over it. But if we have the
Right.
process and everybody gets pre-approved,
Okay, yeah,
You can
we'll
eliminate it
look at
before they
it
even bid
and bring
it.
that back. Yeah, that's a good idea. We will find out.
I was wondering if we could have a recommendation from administration and/or curriculum regarding the Smart Start program, about whether or not we want to see that district-wide.
We can bring that back. We'll find out. What else?
None others?
Waiting on
Okay.
you.
Thanks. All right, well, there has been a request for executive session. Dean?
We do need to go for negotiations, SEIU negotiations.
How long are you needing?
15 minutes.
15? Okay.
Bill, I'm going to hold you to it.
Well, okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations for a period of 20 minutes, beginning at, and non-elected personnel, beginning at 9:15 to be over by 9:35, to include all members of the Board of Education, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent of special services, the board attorney,
Rusty.
and the director of finance, and for the portion of negotiations, where is our building and grounds director? There you are. So we will start that at 9:15. Seconded by Board Member Schwartz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Anyone that has